above the East African rift, the Virunga volcanic slopes sleep beneath a blanket of dense, pearlescent mist. As the earliest hints of dawn brush the jagged peaks, the heavy fog begins to unspool, drifting slowly through the labyrinth of towering hagenia trees and dense bamboo thickets. This is a high-altitude cloud forest, sitting nearly 10,000 feet above sea level, where the air is thin, crisp, and perpetually saturated with moisture. Every surface glistens with the night's condensation. Droplets of morning dew gather heavy upon the velvety leaves of giant lobelias, releasing a steady rhythmic drip that echoes softly through the understory. The ecosystem here is a sanctuary of emerald green, fueled by rich volcanic soil and the daily mist. A gentle mountain breeze whispers through the hollow bamboo stalks, carrying the earthy scent of damp moss and thawing volcanic loam. Slowly, the forest awakens to the new spring day. Far off in the canopy, the raspy, resonant calls of colobus monkeys drift through the cooling air, a melodic punctuation to the morning stillness. Subtle bird calls, the soft trills of high-altitude sunbirds, begin to weave through the mist. There is a profound, tranquil patience to this landscape, a timeless rhythm dictated by the rise and fall of the mountain weather. As the pale morning light filters downward, it catches the shimmering water vapor, turning the gloom into a soft, diffused glow. The shadows retreat gradually into the roots of ancient ferns, leaving the volcanic slopes peaceful, untouched, and ready for the unfolding day. Deep within the emerald sanctuary of a dense bamboo thicket, half concealed by towering stalks and heavy shadows, a profound transformation has quietly occurred. Here, sheltered from the mountain wind, a mature female gorilla rests against the dark, rich earth. Cradled securely against her chest is a fragile new life, a newborn infant, impossibly small against the massive, protective expanse of the mother's frame. Weighing barely 4 pounds, the newborn is remarkably vulnerable in the high-altitude chill. Its skin is a delicate, wrinkled pink beneath a sparse covering of fine, jet-black hair. Because a newborn primate cannot yet regulate its own body temperature, survival hinges entirely on the constant, radiant warmth of the mother's embrace. She folds her broad chest around the tiny form, wrapping her thick arms in a secure, deliberate cradle. The infant's eyes, large and unaccustomed to the light, remain half-closed as it takes its very first, shallow breaths of the cool, damp mountain air. Lungs that have never known oxygen expand gently, drawing in the rich scent of damp earth and crushed vegetation. Instinct takes over immediately. Long, slender fingers, already tipped with tiny, perfect nails, reach out to fumble blindly through the thick, coarse hair of the mother's chest, finding a secure grip. With slow, deliberate care, the mother lowers her head to nuzzle the infant. Her broad lips brush against the crown of its soft head, breathing in its scent and murmuring a low, resonant rumble deep in her throat. She begins a rhythmic session of gentle grooming, her calloused fingers smoothing the damp fur, warming the tiny body, and anchoring the fragile bond that will sustain them both through the misty days ahead. High above the sea level, where the thin mountain air holds less oxygen, the newborn's tiny respiratory system begins its remarkable physiological adjustment. At over 10,000 feet, every breath requires a delicate balance. The infant's small lungs expand and contract in a steady, calming rhythm, absorbing the oxygen-rich mist that drifts quietly through the bamboo stems. Specialized hemoglobin, inherited through generations of high-altitude evolution, efficiently carries oxygen through the infant's bloodstream, helping its developing heart adapt to the demands of the volcanic slopes. With each quiet inhalation, the cooling sensation of the spring dawn touches the infant's sensitive airways. Yet, absolute comfort is maintained through the mother's radiant body heat and her deep, steady breathing, which acts as a metronome for the baby's own resting pulse. Metabolic processes hum quietly within the tiny body, working to generate internal warmth against the mountain chill. The mother's chest rises and falls in a slow, hypnotic wave, lifting the infant slightly and then settling it back against her heart. Sensory receptors in the newborn's skin register the profound contrast between the cool ambient mist and the profound, enveloping warmth of maternal care. This sensory feedback stimulates neurological pathways, awakening the infant's nervous system to the living world around it. Secure in this blanket of fur and familial safety, the tiny primate drifts peacefully between wakefulness and deep, restorative rest. The transition from the quiet darkness of gestation to the vibrant, mist-veiled heights of the Virungas is complete. Anchored by the timeless instinct of survival and the gentle caress of the mountain morning. Against the secure expanse of the mother's chest, the newborn's hands stir with a profound, ancestral wisdom. Without sight fully accustomed to the morning light, tiny fingers curl inward with surprising strength. This is the palmar grasp reflex, an innate neurological adaptation forged through millions of years of primate evolution. The infant's soft, hairless palms press against the thick, dark fur of the mother, locking its fingers into the dense, coarse hair with remarkable tenacity. Simultaneously, the infant's feet curl inward, anchoring the lower body securely against the maternal torso. This dual grip forms an unbreakable physical bond, ensuring that the newborn remains safely attached as the mother moves through the steep, volcanic terrain. Every hair of the mother's coat serves as a natural anchor line, distributing the infant's weight evenly and providing a tactile landscape of absolute security. The skin receptors in the baby's palms and soles continuously relay reassuring signals of texture and stability to the developing brain, reinforcing a deep sense of safety. As the morning breeze ripples through the bamboo grove, swaying the mother gently from side to side, the infant responds by tightening its hold. There is no panic in this reflexive action, only a quiet, instinctive harmony between mother and child. The mother adjusts her posture, offering further support with one large, leathery hand, seamlessly accommodating the infant's hold while continuing her rhythmic, calming rest. High upon the chilly volcanic slopes, maintaining a stable body temperature is a monumental physiological challenge for a newborn primate. Without the dense fat layers of marine mammals or an adult's extensive muscle mass, the infant relies entirely on behavioral thermotherapeutics and the radiant warmth of its mother's body. The mother understands this ancient imperative intimately. With slow, deliberate movements, she draws her knees upward, creating a natural cradle that arches over the fragile infant. Her broad chest becomes a sanctuary of radiant heat, radiating a steady 99 degrees Fahrenheit that shields the newborn from the damp mountain chill. Her leathery hands begin a rhythmic, soothing grooming ritual. Long, dark fingers part the infant's fine, sparse hair, sweeping rhythmically across its back in slow, circular motions. This gentle tactile stimulation does more than merely clean. It encourages peripheral blood circulation, stimulating the infant's metabolism and activating brown adipose tissue, specialized fat that generates heat in young mammals. Every sweep of her fingers calms the nervous system, dropping the newborn's heart rate into a deep, peaceful cadence. The mother's warm breath softly ruffles the fine fuzz on the top of the infant's head, releasing familiar scents that anchor the baby in absolute security. Wrapped in this living blanket, the newborn yields completely to the profound exhaustion of its first morning. Its tiny chest rises and falls in effortless synchronization with the maternal heartbeat beneath it. Safe within the impenetrable fortress of maternal care, the infant drifts deeper into sleep, cradled gently against the slow, steady rhythm of the Virunga mountain forest. All around this quiet sanctuary, the rest of the mountain gorilla troop begins to stir, shifting softly in the cooling bamboo. A massive silverback, the dominant male of the family, lets out a low, rumbling vocalization, a chest-deep resonance that vibrates gently through the damp earth, signaling safety and communal peace. Hearing this familiar bass note, juvenile troop members stretch their limbs and begin to uncurl from their nighttime nests, sliding down thick stalks of vegetation with lazy, unhurried grace. They move with cautious steps over the dew-drenched moss, foraging for tender bamboo shoots without disturbing the profound stillness of the mother and her precious cargo. The newborn remains completely undisturbed by the gentle commotion, resting in a state of restorative slumber. Its immature nervous system processes the faint ambient sounds, the distant chatter of colobus monkeys high in the canopy, and the whispering mountain breeze, simply as background echoes of a secure world. Sleep is biologically essential for this infant. During these deep resting phases, human-like neural pathways consolidate, and growth hormone surges to aid in skeletal development. Sheltered beneath the mother's protective arm, the tiny gorilla's breathing stays slow and rhythmic. The mother rests her chin gently upon her knee, half closing her eyes as the morning sun finally burns through the mist, casting soft golden beams across the volcanic slopes. Bathed in this warm, dappled light, the entire family settles into the gentle routines of a new day, unified by kinship, quiet contentment, and the timeless rhythm of the high African cloud forest. High upon the mist-draped slopes of the mountain forest, pale dawn filters softly through a canopy of damp spring foliage. Inside a sheltered sleeping nest woven from branches and leaves, the world is quiet and still. A newborn gorilla stirs against its mother's chest, taking its very first breaths in the cool, oxygen-rich air of the Virunga Mountains. As the morning chill presses gently against the nest, the infant's tiny fingers brush instinctively through the dense, midnight black fur of its mother's chest. Without a moment of hesitation, the small fingers curl inward with astonishing force. This is the palmar grasp reflex, an evolutionary marvel rooted deep within primate biology. At just hours old, the newborn possesses a grip so tenacious that its body weight is easily supported entirely by its own hands and feet. The plantar reflex is equally strong, with tiny toes wrapping firmly around the thick hair fibers, anchoring the infant securely to the maternal form. This remarkable grip is not a learned behavior, but a vital physiological adaptation designed for immediate survival in the arboreal and terrestrial highlands. While the mother rests, drawing deep, steady breaths that warm the surrounding air, the infant relies entirely on these automatic neuromuscular responses. The soft rustling of giant lobelia leaves carries on the gentle mountain breezes outside the nest, blending with distant morning bird calls. Enveloped in maternal warmth and protected by the intricate architecture of the nest, the newborn remains safely suspended, its tiny body attuned to the slow, steady rhythm of the waking forest. Within the quiet sanctuary of the overnight nest, the adult female stirs. A soft, low vocalization rumbles deep within her chest, a familiar, grounding vibration that resonates directly through the newborn pressed tightly against her. She shifts her massive weight slowly, adjusting her posture with immense care to accommodate the fragile new life clinging to her warm ventral side. In the high-altitude ecosystem of the mountain forest, maternal transport is a masterclass in anatomical efficiency. The female's thick, coarse black fur serves a dual evolutionary purpose. It provides effective camouflage in the dim, misty light and acts as a dense, high-friction blanket that ensures secure purchase for the infant's grasping hands and feet. As she rises from her bed of woven branches, her movements are deliberate and measured. She gathers her limbs beneath her, testing her balance on the damp earth while keeping her core stable and protective. The subtle snapping of bamboo stalks echoes softly nearby as the rest of the family group begins to awaken in the surrounding undergrowth. The mother remains motionless for a quiet moment, letting the infant settle more deeply into the thick hair of her belly. Her powerful hands gently support the newborn's lower back, reinforcing the natural anchor formed by the infant's unwavering grip. With every subtle shift of her muscles, she communicates a steady, reassuring presence. As she finally steps out of the sheltered nest and into the cool, dew-kissed foliage of the morning, the infant experiences its very first gentle sway of movement, cradled safely against the heart of the troop. Leaving the safety of the woven nest behind, the mother leads her slow procession directly into the misty embrace of the bamboo thickets. Here, in the high-altitude understory, spring brings a dense thicket of emerald stalks dripping with overnight condensation. The air is cool and heavy with the scent of damp earth and crushed vegetation, punctuated only by the soft rustling of giant lobelia leaves swaying in a gentle mountain breeze. Moving through this tangled terrain requires extraordinary balance and physical coordination. As a quadrupedal primate, the adult female relies on knuckle walking, distributing her immense weight evenly across her knuckles and feet. This specialized form of locomotion stabilizes her upper body, keeping her chest and the precious cargo nestled there remarkably level, even as she navigates uneven ground, moss-covered stones, and fallen logs. Every step she takes is a masterclass in biomechanical adaptation. Her long, powerful arms reach forward to part the dense bamboo stalks, parting them smoothly so they never strike the tiny infant. The newborn, perfectly evolved for this arboreal and terrestrial journey, instinctively curls its fingers deeper into the maternal fur. Its immature spinal and muscular systems do not yet need to work to maintain posture. Instead, the mother's rhythmic, swaying gait does all the physical labor, rocking the little one in a steady, hypnotic cadence. All around them, the family group moves as a cohesive social unit, communicating through soft, intermittent grunts that reinforce social bonds and coordinate their trajectory. The subtle snapping of bamboo stalks marks the passage of heavy bodies through the dense growth, a comforting chorus of familiar sounds. Sheltered entirely from the damp chill by the broad canopy above and the mother's enveloping warmth, the newborn absorbs the tranquil, steady rhythm of the journey, lulled further into peace by the gentle motion. High-altitude cloud forests can be deceptively chilly, especially in the damp transition of spring. For an infant gorilla just hours into the world, maintaining core body temperature is a critical physiological challenge. Without the dense subcutaneous fat reserves of an adult, the newborn relies entirely on external biological strategies to stay warm. The mother's massive bulk acts as a thermal sanctuary, radiating a steady, vital heat that shields the fragile body from the crisp mountain air. This continuous contact initiates a profound loop of tactile feedback. The mother's broad chest and dense, insulating fur form a microclimate, trapping her body warmth against the infant's skin. Every rise and fall of her respiration acts as a gentle respiratory massage, stimulating the baby's circulation and encouraging deep, rhythmic breathing. Specialized receptors in the infant's skin register this constant pressure, triggering neurological pathways that promote relaxation, stable heart rates, and healthy metabolic function. This unwavering physical embrace does more than regulate temperature. It anchors the emotional architecture of the troop. As the mother pauses in a clearing of wild celery, her hands occasionally reach up to adjust or reassure the tiny form against her chest. The infant responds by nuzzling deeper into the thick, dark thatch, seeking the absolute center of her warmth. Surrounded by the quiet majesty of the misty forest, wrapped in the ultimate security of maternal care, the newborn drifts toward sleep, cradled safely within the living heart of the family group. As the mother pauses beside a dense cluster of wild celery, she reaches out with broad, gentle fingers to pluck the tender stalks. This brief stillness allows the newborn to experience its first wide-awake view of the broader family, Blinking against the filtered morning light, the tiny infant processes shapes and movements just beyond the safety of its mother's chest. Through unhurried, amber-brown eyes, it watches the complex social tapestry of the troop unfold for the very first time. A few yards away, a dominant silverback moves with measured grace, parting the damp undergrowth with effortless power. Other adult females forage nearby, their movements deliberate and calm. Primate social hierarchy is maintained not through tension, but through steady, predictable proximity and reassuring communication. Low, resonant grunts pass softly between the feeding adults, a vocal chorus of contentment known as belch vocalizations. These rhythmic, low-frequency sounds vibrate gently through the damp air and the mother's frame, offering the newborn an auditory blanket of immense comfort. Occasionally, a juvenile gorilla bounces lightly past, stopping to peer curiously at the tiny new arrival with wide, inquiring eyes. The mother shifts her weight just enough to shield the newborn, a subtle gesture that reinforces her protective role while allowing safe, early socialization. The familiar, rumbling cadence of the troop envelops the infant, blending with the rustling of giant lobelia leaves overhead. Surrounded by these familiar sounds and reassuring presence, the newborn rests securely, absorbing the peaceful rhythm of mountain life. High above the misty volcanic slopes, the morning sun finally burns through the heavy mountain vapor, casting a warm, diffuse light across the damp forest floor. As the midday hour approaches, the energetic pace of the foraging troop begins to naturally subside. The steady snapping of bamboo stalks grows infrequent, replaced by a lingering, peaceful quietude that settles deep into the valley. Sensing the shift in the family's rhythm, the mother eases her steady forward momentum. She steps away from the main feeding trail into a sheltered, sun-dappled clearing carpeted with soft moss and fallen leaves. Here, sheltered from the gentle mountain breezes by a natural wall of giant lobelia, she finds a quiet patch of earth to rest her heavy frame. Her movements are deliberate and unhurried, reflecting the ancient energy conservation strategies essential for large herbivores subsisting on a fibrous diet of leaves and stems. She lowers herself gently onto the damp spring foliage, creating a secure, comfortable cradle for the infant against her chest. The newborn, warmed by the rising ambient temperature and the steady thrum of its mother's breathing, relaxes its tiny fingers just a fraction from her dense fur. The surrounding adult gorillas begin to settle nearby, folding their massive arms and resting their heads in the cool grass. Far in the distance, the last morning bird calls fade into the quiet afternoon air, leaving only the soft rustling of leaves overhead. Enveloped in this tranquil stillness, the infant yields to the heavy, soothing blanket of sleep, resting safely in the heart of the mountain forest. High upon the mist-veiled mountain slopes, the spring air warms gently as the sun climbs to its zenith. The bustling activity of the morning foraging party gradually softens. One by one, the mountain gorilla troop drifts into a shaded, sheltered clearing nestled among towering emerald ferns and ancient moss-draped trunks. Movement slows. The powerful silverback pauses, lets out a low, rumbling sigh of contentment, and settles his heavy frame onto a deep mattress of fallen leaves. Around him, the rest of the family follows suit. The sharp snapping of bamboo stalks ceases, replaced by an atmosphere of profound, heavy-lidded repose. This daily pause is far from idle. For a specialized folivore, digesting a diet of fibrous leaves, stems, and pith requires an immense investment of time and metabolic energy conservation. By resting during the warmest hours of the day, the troop allows their complex digestive systems to process the morning's harvest efficiently, husbanding their strength for the evening search for food. A gentle mountain breeze filters through the canopy, carrying the high, sweet notes of distant birdsong and the low, soporific hum of hidden insects. Overhead, the golden light of the spring sun fractures through the dense foliage, casting shifting, warm mosaics across the dark fur of the resting animals. Rustling leaves whisper softly overhead as a few stray droplets fall from the upper branches, evaporating before they touch the damp earth. In this quiet sanctuary, the forest holds its breath, wrapping the resting family in a blanket of absolute peace. Against the soft velvet of her chest, the newborn infant finds its entire world. Nestled securely within the cradle of long, dark hair, the tiny creature rests its weight entirely upon the maternal anchor. Here, against the rhythmic rise and fall of the mother's broad rib cage, the infant experiences the primal, soothing acoustics of a steady heartbeat, a slow, deep cadence that echoes the gentle thrum of the forest itself. This intimate contact is essential for early thermoregulation. Because a newborn mountain gorilla cannot yet independently regulate its internal body temperature in the cool mountain air, it relies entirely on maternal warmth. Every inhalation and exhalation from the mother provides a continuous, reliable source of thermal energy. Her respiration is deliberate and unhurried, deep, measured breaths that signal absolute security to the tiny life pressed against her. As she rests among the damp ferns, the mother's large, dark eyes close halfway in a peaceful haze. Her thick arm curls protectively upward, forming a natural barrier against the outside world, yet remaining loose enough to allow the infant complete freedom to breathe and shift. Every tactile adjustment, a gentle tightening of her fingers around a tiny foot, the slow sweep of her palm across the infant's back, serves as a silent language of reassurance. Surrounded by the heavy scent of crushed foliage and rich earth, the newborn lets out a microscopic sigh, its tiny chest sinking naturally with the vast, calming rhythm of the adult. In this cradle of fur and heartbeat, time slows completely, melting away into the quiet, warm shadows of the afternoon. Beyond the quiet sanctuary of the mother and her newborn, the rest of the troop weaves a tapestry of gentle touch across the forest floor. In the dappled amber light, physical proximity is the language that maintains the family's peaceful cohesion. A short distance away, two adult females settle side by side among the sprawling fronds of giant ferns, engaging in the slow, rhythmic art of mutual grooming. Primate grooming goes far beyond mere hygiene. It is an essential social currency that builds trust and reinforces hierarchy within the troop. With practiced, deliberate fingers, one female parts the thick, dark fur of her companion, searching methodically for stray bits of forest debris. Each careful stroke of her fingertips sends calming endorphins through the recipient, lowering heart rates and dissolving any lingering morning tensions. The steady, hypnotic sound of hands sliding softly through coarse hair creates a soothing white noise that blends seamlessly with the distant, melodic calls of forest birds overhead. Nearby, a mature silverback leans his massive bulk lazily against the mossy roots of an ancient hagenia tree. A juvenile approaches him with cautious reverence, extending a hand to lightly brush against his broad, silver-furred shoulder. The giant acknowledges the touch with a low, rumbling grumble, a soft vocalization that vibrates deep within his chest, communicating absolute acceptance and safety. Every touch, every press of shoulder against shoulder, and every sweep of grooming fingers reinforces the invisible bonds holding the family together. In this unhurried afternoon stillness, the troop exists as a single, harmonious organism wrapped in warmth, connection, and the deep, abiding comfort of community. All this gentle interaction and unhurried stillness serves a profound biological purpose. For mountain gorillas, resting through the midday hours is not merely a preference, but an absolute ecological necessity for survival. Their diet consists almost entirely of fibrous stems, leaves, and pith, tough, cellulose-rich plant material that requires immense effort to break down. Because these folivores subsist on low-energy vegetation, They must consume vast quantities of foliage to meet their nutritional needs. However, the true metabolic challenge begins after the feeding concludes. Digesting heavy, fibrous plant matter is a slow, chemically demanding process that requires vast amounts of internal energy and a calm, resting digestive tract. By sprawling peacefully across the sun-warmed earth during the hottest hours of the day, the gorillas conserve vital metabolic energy. Their bodies redirect precious resources away from active movement and locomotion, channeling all internal power toward the complex work of fermentation and nutrient extraction happening within their specialized guts. The long hours of motionless resting allow the gut flora to slowly and efficiently process the day's harvest, extracting every possible ounce of nourishment from the tough green stems. Without this mandatory period of midday inactivity, the caloric math of a frugivorous lifestyle simply would not balance. Energy expenditure must be kept low to match the modest nutritional yield of their forest diet. And so, stretched out comfortably among the giant ferns, the troop surrenders completely to the slow, restorative rhythm of digestion. Each relaxed breath and heavy-lidded gaze contributes to a vital cycle of rest, allowing the slow-burning fuel of the forest to sustain them. All around the resting troop, the ancient forest floor becomes a living canvas of light and shadow. Overhead, the sprawling canopy of towering native trees catches the high spring sun, diffusing its bright rays into a soft, golden haze. This gentle illumination filters downward, passing through the intricate, feathery fronds of giant ferns that arch gracefully overhead like emerald cathedral ceilings. As the sun slowly shifts through the afternoon sky, the light breaks into shifting patterns of warm amber and cool jade, painting dappled spots across the dark, velvet fur of the lounging gorillas. Every breath of the gentle mountain breeze sets the canopy leaves into motion, causing the mosaic of light to drift in slow, hypnotic waves across the forest floor. Dust motes and microscopic spores float lazily within these luminous beams, glowing softly in the quiet air. Down in this sheltered understory, time seems to slow to a crawl. The giant ferns act as a natural acoustic curtain, softening the sounds of the wider wilderness into a distant, soothing hum of insect wings and the occasional melodic chime of unseen birdsong echoing through the valleys. The atmosphere is thick with the earthy fragrance of damp moss, rich volcanic soil, and sun-warmed vegetation. Bathed in this tranquil luminescence, the resting family blends seamlessly into their verdant surroundings. The sharp contrasts of the day soften into a uniform wash of peace, wrapping the newborn infant and its resting mother in a quiet cocoon of flickering green light, where the boundaries between animal and forest gently dissolve into absolute serenity. As the afternoon slowly turns, the golden beams overhead begin to stretch and bend. Long amber shadows reach out across the forest floor, casting cool, velvety shapes over the resting family. This gradual shift in illumination brings a subtle cooling to the mountain air, signaling the natural drop in temperature that comes with the approach of evening. For the gorilla troop, this environmental cue initiates a gentle, physiological transition from midday rest toward nighttime preparations. The newborn infant stirs slightly against its mother's chest, feeling the familiar, steady rhythm of her respiration as the cooling breeze brushes through their thick fur. Thermoregulation in these high altitudes relies heavily on huddling and resting together, and the mother instinctively draws the infant closer, sharing her body heat as the ambient temperature descends. Around them, the gentle rustling of leaves and the soft, sleepy hum of insects begin to quiet. Other members of the troop stretch their limbs with slow, unhurried grace, letting go of the midday stillness. There is no rush, no sudden movement, only the quiet, synchronized unwinding of a family deeply attuned to the rhythms of the earth. The fading light paints the giant ferns in deep shades of bronze and indigo, creating a peaceful, twilight sanctuary. Resting securely in the heart of this ancient woods, the newborn breathes in the cool, fragrant air, completely safe within the enveloping shadows of the mountain forest. High upon the mist-veiled volcanic slopes of the Virunga Mountains, the fierce golden light of late afternoon softens into a gentle, amber haze. Through the dense bamboo thickets, long shadows stretch lazily across the rich, damp earth, signaling the end of another active day. The daily foraging journey, a meandering voyage of discovery through ferns and tender stalks, comes to a slow, natural pause. Across the mountainside, the mountain gorilla troop begins to settle. The towering silverback and the adult females cease their steady munching, moving with a deliberate, unhurried grace. They pause to stretch their powerful limbs and indulge in a final, quiet session of social grooming, reinforcing the bonds of kinship as the mountain air begins to cool. Clinging securely to the warm fur of its mother's chest, a young infant experiences the shifting world through the soothing rhythm of her breathing. Every rise and fall of her chest provides a steady anchor against the fading light. Evolutionary biology reveals the profound wisdom of this closeness. As the ambient temperature drops with the setting sun, this physical contact is vital for the infant's thermal regulation, preserving precious body heat against the chill of the high-altitude night. Above the canopy, a gentle mountain breeze whispers through the hollow bamboo joints, producing a soft, hollow rustling sound like the exhales of the forest itself. In the distance, the resonant calls of colobus monkeys drift across the valley, fading into the encroaching dusk. The forest is preparing for rest, and the heavy velvet curtains of twilight begin to drape softly over the sleeping volcanoes. With the day's foraging concluded, the adult female gently adjusts her precious cargo, ensuring the infant is secure against her chest before turning her attention to the earth beneath them. Choosing the right sleeping site is a critical behavioral adaptation honed by generations of evolutionary survival. She evaluates the damp forest floor with careful precision, seeking a flat, well-protected microhabitat that offers natural defense against the elements. She navigates toward the base of a dense bamboo cluster, where the thick vertical stalks act as a natural windbreak against the increasingly brisk mountain breeze. Selecting this sheltered spot is a deliberate thermal calculation. By positioning the nest away from windswept ridges and damp hollows, she minimizes heat loss for both herself and her vulnerable infant during the frigid nocturnal hours ahead. As the mountain mist begins to settle, a damp chill creeps through the understory, turning the air crisp and heavy with the scent of wet moss and crushed leaves. The ambient temperature drops noticeably, signaling that the window for evening preparation is closing. The female tests the firmness of the soil, ensuring the ground is dry and stable enough to support their combined weight through the night. Around them, the forest responds to the cooling atmosphere. Subtle night insects begin their low, rhythmic hum, while the rustling leaves overhead whisper a soothing lullaby to the darkening woods. Satisfied with the location, the female settles her weight onto the chosen patch of earth, perfectly positioned to begin the intricate architecture of her evening refuge. With practiced dexterity, the female begins the meticulous architecture of her sleeping platform. Ground nest construction is an ancient behavioral adaptation shared among great apes, transforming the raw foliage of the understory into an ergonomic mattress that isolates their bodies from the cold, damp earth. Reaching outward with long, powerful arms, she gathers the surrounding green stems of mountain bamboo, wild celery, and lush ferns. Her movements are deliberate and efficient, honed by years of instinct and experience. With a fluid pull, she bends a thick stalk of bamboo inward toward her body, tucking its leafy tip beneath her thighs. She reaches for another stem on her left, snapping it partially at the base so it yields to her design, then weaves it tightly across the previous layer. Stalk by stalk, the circular frame takes shape, creating a springy, resilient cushion designed to distribute weight evenly and trap precious body heat. From the safety of its mother's lap, the infant watches the weaving process with wide, calm eyes. It feels the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of her chest and absorbs the gentle vibrations of snapping stems and rustling fronds. Every twist of fern and braid of bamboo is a masterclass in great ape engineering, forming a secure basin that cradles them both. She pulls a final handful of soft moss and tender leaves to line the interior, smoothing the rough edges until the structure is a cozy, rounded nest, testing the give of the woven vegetation with a gentle shift of her weight. She ensures the platform is structurally sound, capable of providing both comfort and insulation as the mountain night deepens around them. With the foundational platform complete, the female settles into the very center of the leafy basin. She draws a final canopy of loose, overlapping fronds over and around herself, creating a secluded dome that mirrors the protective hollows of the ancient forest. Within this private sanctuary, the infant is tucked securely against her warm, broad belly. This intimate positioning is vital for thermal regulation in the high-altitude Virunga Mountains, where ambient temperatures plunge rapidly after sunset. By resting in direct contact with her thick fur and radiant body heat, the young gorilla is shielded from the chilly mountain breeze whispering through the bamboo stalks. Physical contact remains constant and profoundly comforting. The mother's muscular arms wrap protectively around the little form, anchoring it safely within the deep mattress. Every breath she takes provides a slow, rhythmic rocking motion that lulls the infant towards sleep. As the last amber light fades from the canopy, the baby's eyelids grow heavy, comforted by the familiar heartbeat echoing steadily against its chest. This uninterrupted skin-to-skin connection reinforces profound social bonds, while safeguarding the infant's vulnerable physiology through the night hours. Safe within the woven cradle of bamboo and fern, the pair rests in absolute harmony with the quiet wilderness. Across the darkening bamboo thickets, a gentle acoustic landscape begins to unfold. Low, rumbling contentment grunts echo softly from nest to nest, vibrating with a deep, resonant warmth that carries but a short distance through the humid evening air. These familiar vocalizations, often described in primatology as belch vocalizations, serve a vital social function. They reinforce group cohesion and signal to every member of the troop that the boundaries of the family are secure and undisturbed. As the mountain shadows lengthen, individual voices rise and fade in a soothing chorus. A silverback settles into his ground nest nearby with a final, heavy sigh of satisfaction, while nearby females murmur low reassurances to their resting offspring. This auditory exchange acts as an invisible tether, binding the dispersed sleeping sites into a unified, peaceful collective. The acoustic communication reduces nocturnal cortisol levels, easing the transition from the high energy demands of daytime foraging to the restorative stillness of sleep. Gradually, the forest around them hushes, responding to the deepening twilight. The distant call of a colobus monkey drifts down from the upper canopy, tapering off into silence as the night insects begin their rhythmic, subdued hum. A gentle mountain breeze whispers once more through the slender bamboo stalks, stirring the outer leaves in a slow, hypnotic wave. Within their woven sanctuaries, the gorillas respond to the quietude, letting their breathing deepen and synchronize with the rhythms of the ancient volcanic slopes. The social murmurs grow fainter, dissolving gracefully into the enveloping quiet of the mountain night. The bamboo stems sway gently in a final breath of mountain breeze, their slender joints clicking softly as total darkness envelops the volcanic slopes. High above, the canopy closes its green curtains against the starlight, leaving the forest floor wrapped in a velvety, secure shadow. Within the warm cradle of the sleeping platform, the infant sleeps soundly. Its tiny chest rises and falls in steady synchronization with the rhythmic breathing of the mother. The physiological marvel of shared thermal regulation continues to work its quiet magic, maintaining an optimal core temperature for the young ape as the ambient air cools rapidly under the clear night sky. Surrounded by the peaceful, sleeping presence of the family troop, the infant rests without a single care, enveloped entirely in the evolutionary sanctuary of maternal care and sturdy architecture. Every member of the group is now motionless, lost in restorative sleep. The biological repair processes of the body take over, repairing muscles strained from daytime foraging and consolidating memories of the forest trails within the developing brain. A subdued hum of night insects provides a delicate, continuous backdrop to the stillness, occasionally punctuated by the hushed rustle of a settling leaf. The stage is set for the long, peaceful hours of the mountain night. The wild slopes grow stiller still, cradled in the ancient rhythm of the earth, waiting quietly for the first pale promise of dawn. High upon the mist-draped volcanic slopes of the Virunga Mountains, the vibrant hum of the diurnal forest gradually surrenders to the quiet grace of twilight. The amber embers of the setting sun fade into deep indigo, and long, peaceful shadows stretch across the damp earth, gently dissolving into a velvet blanket of night. The heavy, emerald canopy settles, and the frantic movements of daytime foraging cease entirely, replaced by the hushed, restorative stillness of the nocturnal world. In this descending darkness, the gorilla family completes their evening ritual, folding woven beds of crushed leaves and branches into secure ground nests. Every member of the troop surrenders to gravity and exhaustion, their massive frames relaxing against the cool, damp forest floor. Metabolic rates begin to slow, conserving vital energy as core body temperatures adjust to the crisp mountain air. As the final rays of daylight vanish, the nocturnal environment awakens with a soothing, subtle chorus. A gentle wind whispers softly through the towering hagenia trees, carrying the damp scent of rich volcanic soil and moss. High in the branches above, a distant owl offers a low, melancholic hoot, while the rhythmic, pulsing hum of night insects weaves a natural lullaby. From somewhere deep within the leafy shadows comes the faint, rhythmic sound of slow, heavy breathing, a communal reassurance of safety and togetherness. The forest holds its breath, cradled in profound tranquility. Nestled deep within the safety of the damp undergrowth, the gorilla family rests securely inside their freshly woven ground nests. Each bed of folded stems and soft fern fronds cradles its occupant against the cool earth, forming a tight, protective circle of shared warmth and social cohesion. At the center of this tranquil sanctuary, the young infant curls tightly against its mother's broad chest. Because an infant's own thermoregulatory system is still maturing, the tiny body relies entirely on maternal contact to maintain an optimal core temperature through the chilly mountain night. Enveloped in the deep, insulating layers of her dense, coarse fur, the little ape sinks into a profound state of comfort. With every steady inhalation, the mother's chest rises and falls in a slow, hypnotic rhythm, acting as a living cradle. The infant's cheek presses softly against her warm skin, lulled by the familiar, soothing cadence of her heartbeat. Outside the rim of the nest, a gentle breeze brushes past the sleeping forms, causing leaves to rustle softly overhead, yet the family remains undisturbed. In this secure embrace, the boundaries between mother and child blur in the quiet dark. The infant's breathing deepens, shifting into the restorative stages of sleep, essential for growing muscles and developing minds. Surrounded by the quiet murmurs of the nocturnal forest, the little one rests in absolute peace, held safe within the enduring strength of the troop. Beneath the velvet canopy of the Virunga night, the sleeping infant drifts deeper into the architecture of rest. Great ape sleep architecture shares a striking evolutionary parallel with our own, cycling predictably through light stages into profound restorative depths. As the hours tick onward, the infant's metabolism noticeably slows, conserving precious energy while the body redirects its vital resources toward internal maintenance. In this quiet state of metabolic conservation, cellular repair accelerates and growth hormones surge through the young bloodstream. But perhaps most vital for the tiny ape is the descent into rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. Beneath closed eyelids, the infant's eyes twitch rhythmically. Inside the developing brain, neural pathways fire in quiet isolation, consolidating the waking lessons of the past spring day, refining motor skills, and weaving the complex fabric of memory. Mother Nature ensures that this neurological processing occurs within the safest possible environment. While the infant's brain actively reorganizes and builds new connections, the mother's protective physiology remains partially attuned to the surroundings. Her own sleep cycle is lighter, designed to monitor the ambient chorus of nocturnal insects and the distant calls of forest owls, ensuring that her offspring is continuously shielded. The soft, rhythmic exhalations of mother and child blend seamlessly with the dripping dew falling from overhead leaves. Held close against the steady drumbeat of maternal life, the infant absorbs the full benefits of restorative slumber, waking briefly only to adjust its grip before sinking once more into the healing quiet of the mountain dark. Beyond the physical boundary of the sleeping nests, the mountain forest reveals a hidden life governed by darkness. The nighttime soundscape of the Virunga cloud forest unfolds with deliberate, unhurried grace, creating a natural acoustic blanket over the resting troop. A gentle mountain breeze glides down the ancient volcanic slopes, carrying the cool scent of damp earth and moss. The wind brushes against the towering stalks of giant lobelias, causing their broad leaves to sway and release soft, rhythmic whispers into the gloom. This delicate rustling mingles with the steady, meditative hum of nocturnal insects threading their way through the undergrowth. Their subtle vibrations provide a continuous, low-frequency drone that anchors the night in tranquil stillness. High above the ground nests, where the canopy opens slightly to the starlit sky, the hollow, resonant hoot of a distant owl drifts across the valley. The call echoes softly, answered only by the occasional heavy droplet of morning dew falling from a leaf tip to strike the forest floor below. Each sound is absorbed by the dense foliage, creating an auditory cocoon that protects and insulates the resting apes. Within this immersive symphony, the boundary between the sleeping family and the surrounding ecosystem softens. The wild mountain sings its quiet lullaby, moving in harmonious unison with the slow, steady breathing of the infant nestled safely in the dark. In the deep, velvet hours of midnight, the forest settles even further into its slumber, marked only by subtle, peaceful adjustments within the sleeping troop. In a nearby nest, a massive silverback shifts his considerable weight to ease tired muscles, the movement accompanied by a soft, dry rustle of woven leaves and broken stems. This gentle disturbance ripples quietly through the damp air. Hearing the rustle, the infant stirs slightly in its sleep, its tiny fingers instinctively tightening their grip into the thick fur of its mother's chest. This reflexive grasping behavior is an innate security measure, ensuring the youngster remains firmly anchored even in moments of unconscious realignment. The mother responds without fully waking. Her heartbeat remains slow and steady, a powerful metronome of calm that reassures the baby. She releases a low, rumbling grumble, a soft vocalization that acts as an acoustic touchstone, reinforcing social cohesion and safety within the dark. Soothed instantly by the familiar maternal rhythm, the infant relaxes its tiny hands. Its breathing deepens once more, returning to the rapid, rhythmic cadence characteristic of active REM sleep. During this vital phase, the infant's brain processes the day's sensory experiences, synthesizing memories and encouraging healthy neurological development. The brief disruption passes like a ripple on a quiet pond, leaving the mountain world undisturbed. The soft rustling fades into the background hum of the forest, and the family sinks back into profound, restorative rest beneath the starlit canopy. Hours slip by in a quiet suspension of time, cradled by the steady rhythm of the sleeping mountain. Gradually, a subtle transformation begins to touch the edges of the high volcanic slopes. The velvet blackness of the sky softens, diluting into deep indigo, then melting into a wash of pale, silvery gray. High above the sleeping troop, the uppermost branches of the dense canopy emerge from the shadows. A cool, gentle wind brushes through the leaves, carrying the final, fading notes of the nocturnal insects as they quiet their chorus. Far in the distance, a forest owl lets out one last, low hoot before settling into silence. With the shifting light comes the awakening of the damp air. Tiny drops of dew gathered on the broad fronds throughout the cool spring night begin to heavy and fall. They release a soft, rhythmic dripping sound, pattering against the woven walls of the ground nests like whispered punctuation marks. Inside the sanctuary of her nest, the mother gorilla stirs slightly, sensing the barometric shift that heralds the new day. Her chest rises and falls in a slow, unhurried breath. Against her warm fur, the infant shifts, its breathing transitioning smoothly from the deep cadence of REM sleep into a lighter, more alert repose. It stretches a tiny leg and opens dark, sleepy eyes for the very first time since evening fell. The first faint, pale light of dawn filters down through the greenery, illuminating the tranquil family. The final night of the spring season draws peacefully to a close, and the forest waits in breathless anticipation of the warm summer sun. Dawn arrives softly upon the lower saddles of the Virunga Mountains, gently drawing the curtain on spring and welcoming the rich, golden warmth of summer. High above the volcanic peaks, the morning light filters through a thinning veil of mist, painting the dense canopy in hues of emerald and amber. As the sun climbs, it warms the damp, fertile earth of the sheltered mountain saddle. Here, the seasonal shift brings a profusion of new life. Lush vegetation carpets the forest floor, where tender shoots of wild celery and delicate beds of bedstraw unfurl in the cool morning air. Every broad leaf glistens with heavy dewdrops, which occasionally let go to patter softly against the undergrowth below. The awakening forest hums with a tranquil, steady rhythm. A gentle mountain breeze whispers through the towering stalks of giant lobelia leaves, carrying the earthy scent of damp moss and sweet nectar. In the distance, the low, melodic calls of colobus monkeys drift across the valley, mingling with the sleepy chirping of awakening forest insects. This environment, nourished by volcanic soil and generous summer rains, provides an ideal sanctuary for the resident gorilla troop. The physiological demands of the new season are met by an abundance of easily digestible, nutrient-rich plants, supporting the growth and vitality of every family member. In the heart of this verdant haven, sheltered from the harsher winds of the higher elevations, the morning air feels suspended in peace. The stage is set for a quiet, gentle day of discovery. As the warmth of summer slowly settles over the sleeping forest and awakens its youngest inhabitants to a world of green abundance. Deep within the shelter of the troop's resting place, the morning air begins to stir with the quiet rustle of shifting bodies. Against the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of its mother's chest, the infant gorilla gently blinks open its dark eyes. Months of nursing and constant, secure contact have built a foundation of robust muscle tone and steadily increasing bone density. The physiological demands of early life are giving way to a newfound strength, preparing the young primate for the physical independence that lies ahead. Sensing the subtle shift in the group's collective energy as the adults prepare to move toward the morning feeding grounds, the infant stretches its tiny limbs. For weeks, every heartbeat has been anchored by an unbroken, reflexive grip tightly woven into the thick, dark fur of the mother's abdomen. Now, curiosity overcomes instinct. With slow, deliberate movements, tiny fingers begin to uncurl. The infant releases its hold for a fleeting, wondrous moment, experiencing the unassisted pull of gravity against its small frame. There is a brief wobble as the developing nervous system recalibrates, testing balance without the safety of maternal tethering. The mother does not stir from her calm repose, yet her awareness is absolute. A large, dark hand rests gently near the infant's back, offering a silent boundary of safety while granting the space needed for this vital milestone. Surrounded by the soft murmurs of the waking forest, the young gorilla takes its first tiny breath of the wider world, balanced on the threshold of movement and discovery. All around this tranquil gathering space, the summer saddle erupts into an extraordinary tapestry of green. Nourished by seasonal warmth and volcanic richness, the lowland understory transforms into a dense, succulent paradise. Thick carpets of wild celery, tender bedstraw, and crisp bamboo shoots stretch as far as the eye can see, providing an abundance of vital nutrients. For the nursing mother, this lush bounty offers the rich caloric intake required to sustain milk production, fueling the rapid growth and neurological development of her offspring. The sprawling vegetation also serves as a forgiving, padded gymnasium for the infant's earliest explorations. Delicate fronds of ferns and spongy layers of moss cushion the damp earth, creating a safe, tactile surface for clumsy hands and untried feet. As the troop begins its gentle drift toward a sunlit patch of wild celery, the young gorilla finds itself immersed in a sensory wonderland. The air carries the sharp, clean fragrance of crushed leaves and damp soil, mingling with the warmth of early sunlight filtering through the canopy. Every stalk of celery and patch of bedstraw introduces new textures and colors to the infant's expanding world. While the adults methodically harvest the tender pith of the plants, peeling back fibrous outer layers with practiced fingers, the infant investigates the miniature forest at ground level. Soft breezes whisper through the giant lobelia leaves overhead, casting gentle shadows across the rich loam. In this sheltered haven of plenty, biological imperative and environmental abundance merge seamlessly, offering everything a young primate needs to grow strong, curious, and secure within the gentle rhythm of the mountain forest. Encouraged by the tranquil safety of the family group, the infant releases its tight grip on its mother's chest. For the very first time, it lowers its small body until its knuckles rest softly against the damp, rich earth of the volcanic slope. Primate motor development at this tender age is a delicate neurological ballet, requiring the gradual myelination of nerve fibers to translate intention into movement. With curious eyes fixed on a patch of emerald moss just inches away, the young gorilla shifts its weight. It lifts one foot, then the other, taking a few short, wonderfully clumsy steps away from maternal warmth. Gravity exerts a new, fascinating pull on the tiny frame, and the infant wobbles gently like a fledgling sailor finding its sea legs on rolling deck boards. The uneven terrain of the forest floor offers endless lessons in spatial awareness and dynamic balance, engaging developing muscles and vestibular systems. Sensing the slight imbalance, the mother does not pull her child back. Instead, she simply extends a reassuring, heavy hand, resting a warm, protective finger against the infant's back. This subtle touch provides all the anchoring confidence the young primate needs. Buoyed by this silent support, the infant rights itself, taking one more proud, wobbly step forward into the fragrant green world. Though venturing outward, the infant is never truly on its own. Behind every tentative stride rests the quiet, watchful presence of the mother. Her dark, expressive eyes follow each unsteady movement with a calm, unhurried devotion that anchors the entire experience. In primate biology, this enduring maternal bond forms the secure base essential for healthy psychological and neurological development, allowing the young brain to process sensory overload without fear. Whenever the soft earth shifts too abruptly beneath small knuckles, or a sudden wobble threatens to tip the infant off balance, the mother responds with effortless grace. A gentle nudge from a leathery palm redirects a wandering step, and a protective forearm offers a welcoming bridge back to safety whenever fatigue begins to set in. This continuous, low-intensity communication relies on subtle tactile cues, a resting wrist, a reassuring press of an index finger against soft fur that lowers stress hormones and reinforce a profound sense of security. The infant leans into this dependable warmth, absorbing the steady rhythm of its mother's slow, rhythmic breathing. Surrounded by the gentle swaying of giant lobelias and the filtered morning light, the young gorilla pauses to test its grip on a stalk of wild celery. There is no rush, no urgency in this sunlit sanctuary. The mother remains a steadfast mountain of patience, allowing her child to explore the boundaries of its growing world while holding the invisible threads of protection close, ensuring every new discovery is cushioned by unconditional care. As the morning advances, warm sunlight filters through the high canopy, breaking the lingering shadows and bathing the forest floor in a gentle golden glow. The ambient air warms slowly, carrying the sweet fragrance of sun-warmed earth and crushed foliage. Having exhausted its initial reserves of energy during those first brave journeys of exploration, the infant begins to feel the natural heaviness of sleep overtaking its developing muscles. It climbs back into the familiar, comforting embrace of its mother, burying its face deep into the thick fur of her chest. The biological need for rest is paramount at this stage of rapid growth, for it is during these quiet periods of sleep that the brain consolidates new motor pathways and integrates the sensory data gathered from the morning's adventures. Around them, the rest of the troop settles into the peaceful rhythms of the sunlit hours. Low grunts of contentment ripple through the clearing as other family members groom, stretch, and begin to browse leisurely on the abundant, dew-kissed vegetation. The distant, musical calls of colobus monkeys drift down from the upper branches, blending with the steady, soothing hum of forest insects. The infant's eyelids grow heavy against the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of its mother's breathing. Each gentle inhalation acts like a lullaby, anchoring the young primate in a cocoon of warmth and safety. Safe within the heart of the family, surrounded by the vibrant green expanse of the summer saddle, the little gorilla yields completely to rest, its tiny body softening completely as it drifts into deep, restorative slumber under the golden canopy. High above the volcanic slopes, the morning sun filters through the gnarled canopy of towering hagenia trees, casting warm, golden shafts of light onto the damp forest floor. A gentle breeze stirs the pale, lichen-draped branches, carrying the soft, rhythmic rustling of leaves and the distant, melodic notes of forest birds. Down in the sheltered embrace of this ancient woodland, a mother gorilla rests peacefully on a thick carpet of emerald moss. Clinging softly to her chest, her infant son stirs from a morning sleep. For weeks, his tiny fingers and toes have known only the warm, rhythmic security of maternal transport, his growing muscles adapting to the constant, gentle sway of travel. But today, the summer air is unusually still and inviting. Slowly, the infant loosens his tight grip on the long black fur of his mother's belly. He shifts his weight, blinking sleepily at the intricate world unfolding just beneath him. Driven by a quiet, innate curiosity, he reaches down. With hesitant caution, he extends a small, flexible hand. His palm presses flat against the dark, damp earth for the very first time. The soil is cool and soft, smelling richly of rich humus and fresh moss. His fingers curl instinctively into the textured carpet, testing the solid ground beneath his weight. Beside his tiny form, a chorus of humming insects vibrates in the warm air while delicate ferns sway gently in the breeze. For a few suspended moments, the infant remains half anchored to his mother's protective warmth, his wide eyes absorbing the vastness of the sunlit clearing, standing bravely at the very threshold of independence. To master the art of terrestrial travel, the young ape must rely on a specialized anatomical design forged by millions of years of evolution. Unlike running quadrupeds, great apes utilize a unique form of locomotion known as quadrupedal knuckle walking. The infant lifts his hands from the damp earth, curling his fingers inward so that his body weight is supported safely upon the intermediate phalanges, the middle joints of his fingers. This distinct posture protects the sensitive pads and delicate volar skin of his palms, while keeping his hands free and ready to grasp foliage at a moment's notice. His developing skeletal structure responds instantly to the physical demands of this ancient gait. Long, powerful arms, adapted from an ancestry of arboreal climbing, act as steady pillars, transferring his weight downward. Behind him, his hind limbs follow in a steady, rhythmic cadence, moving in a modified plantigrade fashion where the soles of his feet meet the mossy soil. With each tentative step across the leaf-littered clearing, his nervous system works quietly to coordinate this complex cross-body rhythm. Left hand, right foot, right hand, left foot. His developing cerebellum continuously processes signals from his inner ear and muscles, fine-tuning his balance with every inch he traverses. The biological machinery of a true forest dweller is gently awakening within him, turning clumsy, unpracticed movements into the deliberate, fluid mechanics that will one day carry him effortlessly through the shadows of the Virunga Mountains. A thick, gnarled hagenia root now blocks the gentle slope of the clearing, rising like a sleeping serpent across the mossy floor. The infant pauses, fixing large, curious eyes upon this unexpected wooden barrier. Driven by an innate urge to explore, he decides to press forward, lifting his knuckles to negotiate the obstacle. But motor skill acquisition is a delicate trial-and-error journey of muscle and mind. His leading hand slips slightly on the damp bark, and his back legs momentarily miscalculate the elevation. With a soft, comical tumble, he rolls sideways off the root, landing gently in a cushion of velvet green forest moss. There is no alarm in the fall, only the quiet rustle of ferns swaying in the morning breeze. Primates learn through physical feedback, and every misstep provides vital data for the nervous system. The infant's developing proprioception, the internal sense of body position, registers the angle of the slope and the give of the earth. With quiet persistence, the young gorilla rights himself. He shakes a stray green frond from his dark, bristly fur and plants his knuckles firmly back onto the soil. His arm muscles, already responding to the morning's physical exertion, engage with renewed strength. He tries again, this time lifting his chest higher and bending his knees to accommodate the rise of the terrain. His fingers curl securely against the ground, finding purchase where the moss grows thin. As he successfully hoists his weight over the obstacle, a subtle calibration occurs within his motor cortex, steadily weaving together the complex neural pathways that will soon make such navigation second nature. Settling back into a sunlit patch of emerald grass, the infant takes a brief pause from his own clumsy travels to watch the older members of the troop. Just a few yards away, two energetic juveniles are effortlessly demonstrating the art of the forest canopy. They swing fluidly between the low, moss-draped branches of a towering hagenia, their long arms stretching and catching with absolute, unconscious grace. The infant's dark, luminous eyes track their every motion. This rapt attention is far more than idle curiosity. It is a vital evolutionary mechanism known as observational learning. Within the young primate's developing brain, specialized mirror neurons are quietly firing, translating the visual spectacle of the juvenile's acrobatics into internal blueprints for future movement. He watches the precise angle at which an older sibling grasps a flexible bough, and how they distribute their growing weight before a short, bounding leap. These visual lessons lay the foundational neurological groundwork for complex motor repertoires yet to come. Every graceful arc and balanced stride performed by his kin is absorbed, catalogued, and stored away in the infant's expanding mind. He tilts his round head slightly, studying the effortless biomechanics of the older gorillas as they navigate the dense understory with absolute mastery. The warm summer air carries the gentle hum of insects and the soft rustle of leaves overhead, creating a peaceful theater of learning. Resting in the dappled morning light, the young gorilla absorbs these silent tutorials, his body relaxed and his mind quietly preparing for the day when he, too, will leap among the branches. Slowly, the infant blinks against the rising warmth of the late morning sun, a sudden heaviness settling deep into his limbs. The thrill of discovery and the long hours spent testing his balance upon the mossy earth have drained his boundless energy. His muscles, which labored so bravely over roots and through damp thickets, now hum with the pleasant fatigue of deep exertion. Turning back toward the familiar dark silhouette resting against a massive hagenia trunk, the young gorilla begins his short journey home. Each step back across the clearing is slower now, more deliberate, dragging tiny feet through the cool, fragrant grass. He approaches his mother with soft, low whines, gentle vocalizations of reassurance that bridge the brief expanse between independence and security. Sensing his approach, the mother lowers her heavy gaze and reaches out a broad, dark hand. Her fingers wrap around him with practiced, exquisite tenderness, pulling his small form snugly against the reassuring warmth of her chest. This maternal anchor is biologically vital. The steady rhythm of her heartbeat and the familiar scent of her fur regulate the infant's nervous system, lowering his heart rate as he transitions from high arousal exploration to restorative rest. She gathers him into a secure embrace, folding him safely into the curve of her arm as the morning light shifts softly into the quiet stillness of noon. Resting his heavy eyelids against her thick, dark coat, the infant exhales a long, sighing breath. Surrounded by the gentle rustle of ferns and the cooling shade of the towering branches above, he drifts towards sleep, cradled safely within the heart of the family group. High above, the canopy shifts as the morning sun reaches its slow zenith, casting still, golden patches of dappled light across the dark, fertile forest floor. The active rustling of the early hours softens into a tranquil rhythm. The towering hagenia trees stand like quiet sentinels, their sprawling branches filtering the bright mountain air into a cool, amber hush that settles deep into the valley. Around the mother and child, the rest of the family group surrenders to the midday calm. Older juveniles stretch their long limbs against sun-warmed moss, while the dominant silverback slumbers peacefully a few paces away, his massive chest rising and falling in a slow, hypnotic cadence. This collective quietude is a crucial part of the social and biological cycle, allowing the troop to process the fibrous vegetation consumed during the morning hours. Digestion requires absolute stillness, shifting metabolic energy inward as the mountain air warms. Drawn into this peaceful stillness, the infant yields completely to sleep. Cradled securely against his mother's chest, his breathing matches the steady, soothing tempo of her own. The humming insects and distant, lazy bird song fade into a distant hum, weaving a natural lullaby through the leaves. Safe within the unbroken circle of family, the young gorilla rests completely, his developing muscles recovering in the gentle embrace of the afternoon, ready to dream of tomorrow's journey across the mossy earth. As the warm summer afternoon stretches across the densely forested slopes, a gentle wind whispers through the towering canopy, carrying the earthy scent of damp soil and sun-warmed foliage. High in the mountains, filtered amber light dapples the rich undergrowth, illuminating a dense patch of wild thistle and tall stinging nettles. In the midst of this vibrant greenery sits a young gorilla, drawn away from the familiar comfort of maternal milk toward the complex textures of the living forest. The infant's dark, curious eyes fixate on the vibrant stems swaying rhythmically in the breeze. Nearby, adult troop members move deliberately through the thicket, their powerful hands selecting specific plants with practiced ease. The subtle, rhythmic snapping of fibrous stems echoes softly beneath the steady, low-frequency hum of canopy insects. Far in the distance, a troop of colobus monkeys calls out, adding a soothing, melodic layer to the late afternoon soundscape. Driven by an innate curiosity, the young ape inches closer to the spiky botanical garden. For months, the infant's diet has consisted entirely of rich, maternal milk, perfectly tailored for early growth. Yet, a profound biological shift is now underway. The tiny hands reach out, brushing hesitantly against the textured leaves of the wild thistle, while the stinging hairs of the neighboring nettles demand caution. The rich, emerald expanse holds an irresistible allure. This quiet moment marks the very beginning of a lifelong journey into filivery, the art and necessity of sustaining life on the abundant, cellulose-rich greenery of the mountain home. Just a short reach away, a mature female settles into the lush vegetation, drawing a thick wild thistle stalk toward her chest. The infant freezes, pressing its belly softly against the mossy ground, watching every minute movement with undivided attention. Observational learning is the great teacher of the mountain forest, where survival depends upon mastering the intricate architecture of wild plants. With measured precision, the adult uses her broad thumbnails and nimble fingers to strip away the prickly, fibrous outer layer of the stem. Her teeth skillfully peel back the tough exterior, exposing the pale, succulent pith hidden within. Every motion is deliberate, economizing energy while extracting the tender nourishment. The young ape leans forward, small dark eyes tracking the exact placement of calloused fingers, absorbing the technique that will soon dictate its own daily survival. This meticulous preparation is an evolutionary necessity. Mountain gorillas must bypass defensive chemical compounds and unpalatable hairs concentrated in the outer bark of many plants. By watching the experienced elders, the infant begins to form a mental map of what is safe and how to harvest it. The soft rustling of leaves and the occasional crisp snap of a stripped stem create a soothing, hypnotic rhythm in the cooling air. The young gorilla reaches out a tentative, trembling hand toward a smaller stalk, mimicking the posture of the adults, testing its own small fingers against the resilient green world. With a gentle rustle of leaves, the infant wraps its tiny fingers around a tender wild celery shoot, testing the stem's resilience against a soft palm. It brings the green prize close, hesitating for a quiet moment as a low, steady insect hum vibrates through the warm afternoon air. Opening a small mouth lined with milk teeth, the young gorilla presses down on the crisp plant matter. A rush of sharp, bitter flavor floods its taste buds, entirely different from the sweet, comforting familiarity of maternal milk. Saliva mixes with the fresh juices, initiating the very first chemical breakdown of complex plant cell walls. While adult gorillas rely on specialized microbes housed within a voluminous hindgut to ferment tough cellulose, this infant's digestive tract is just beginning to cultivate the vital bacterial communities required for strict filivery. Every microscopic swallow introduces novel botanical compounds to a naive microbiome, slowly training the developing gut to process the rich, fibrous bounty of the mountains. The infant chews slowly, its small jaw moving with a rhythmic side-to-side motion observed directly from the troop elders. Stringy green fibers catch briefly against pink gums, eliciting a gentle, thoughtful blink before the young ape manages a clumsy swallow. Satisfied with the curious new sensations, it lets the remaining stem drop softly to the mossy earth, sinking back into the welcoming embrace of the shaded undergrowth to let the strange, heavy warmth of digestion settle deep within its belly as the forest cools. deep within the warm, shaded undergrowth. The profound transformation occurring inside the young gorilla relies upon an intricate internal architecture. To sustain a life rooted entirely in folivory, the body must master the physics and chemistry of tough botanical matter. Unlike simple stomachs, the infant's developing gastrointestinal tract is destined to become a specialized fermentation vat, a voluminous hindgut, housing trillions of symbiotic microbes, will eventually work tirelessly to break down complex plant cellulose that mammalian enzymes alone cannot digest. Outside of these hidden biological laboratories, external adaptations begin just as clearly at the surface. The infant's broad, flat molars, already anticipating the permanent teeth to come, are engineered for crushing and shearing tough vegetation rather than slicing meat. As the afternoon breeze sighs softly through the canopy, these evolutionary tools represent millions of years of adaptation. The wide jaw and powerful chewing muscles operate in a slow, rhythmic side-to-side motion, grinding fibrous stems into a digestible paste. Every single leaf consumed contributes to the delicate balance of a thriving internal ecosystem. Bacteria and protozoa must be gradually introduced, colonizing the gut in a careful sequence that turns naive tissue into a resilient engine of nutrient extraction. This slow process unlocks the rich minerals hidden deep within wild celery and thistle piths, fueling the steady growth of bone and muscle. Resting quietly in the cooling air, the young gorilla absorbs the quiet lessons of the forest, held safely in the peaceful rhythm of natural survival. Close beside the infant, the mother remains a steady and comforting anchor in the shifting sea of green. Her dark, leathery hands move with practiced ease among the thorny stalks, demonstrating a quiet masterclass in ancient foraging traditions. She pauses, picking a particularly tender shoot of wild thistle, and gently draws it through her teeth to strip away the prickly outer layers. With infinite patience, she holds out the soft, peeled pith directly toward her young one, offering a safe bridge between milk and the botanical world. The infant leans forward, trusting the familiar warmth of her side, and takes the offering from her palm. Every gesture reinforces a profound social bond, turning nutrition into a shared ritual of care and instruction. While adult gorillas spend hours selecting specific plant species to balance mineral intake and avoid secondary defensive compounds in leaves, this little one learns by imitation, by sharing her own foraging space and letting the infant sample food straight from her fingers. The mother nurtures both body and mind. This gentle guidance reduces the trial and error of finding sustenance in a complex ecosystem, smoothing the transition into independence. As the late afternoon light filters down through the leaves in warm, amber shafts, the infant chews slowly, absorbing the rich flavors of the forest floor. The mother makes a low, rumbling vocalization, a soft, rhythmic hum of approval that vibrates gently in the humid air. Content and increasingly secure, the young gorilla presses closer to her warm fur, resting in the absolute safety of maternal presence while the cool shadows lengthen across the quiet undergrowth. Gradually, the steady rhythm of chewing subsides across the shaded clearing. Little jaws grow heavy with sleep, and the rich green flavors of the forest floor linger in the warm, humid air. With satisfied bellies, the infant settles deep into the soft wool of its mother's chest, letting out a soft, contented sigh that blends seamlessly with the gentle rustling of leaves overhead. The frantic energy of the afternoon gives way to a profound, breathing stillness. A distant colobus monkey calls out once more through the canopy, its voice echoing like a fading lullaby across the valley. The warm summer sun dips lower, painting the dense patches of wild thistle and stinging nettles in long, amber brushstrokes. In this tranquil hour, the infant's developing digestive system quietly begins its remarkable work, processing the first complex plant cellulose with the aid of evolving gut microbes that will one day unlock the full nutritional wealth of the jungle. shielded by towering greenery. The family group merges into the gathering shadows of dusk. The mother wraps a protective arm around her resting young one, anchoring them both in the deep, restorative peace of the cooling woodland. Every breath slows to match the quiet cadence of the forest, offering a safe, unchanging harbor as night prepares to blanket the mountainside. The summer sun sinks low toward the western canopy, casting a long amber glow across the open grassy glade. A gentle evening breeze whispers through the tall, seed-heavy stems, carrying the rich scents of damp earth and crushed clover. Far off, the final descending notes of a forest thrush echo through the trees, blending with the soft, rhythmic rustling of swaying branches. Daytime foraging yields to a quiet, collective ease. The mountain gorilla troop has drifted out from the dense understory and into the spacious clearing, their dark coats catching the warm, honeyed light of the golden hour. Having spent the afternoon quietly feeding on tender thistles and nutritious bedstraw, the adults now settle comfortably into the flattened grass. In this serene sanctuary, a profound sense of security takes hold. Primate psychology reveals that such periods of calm are essential for group cohesion, allowing the troop to reinforce social bonds without the pressures of daily travel or resource competition. Mothers stretch their tired limbs, while a massive silverback reclines nearby with a posture of supreme, relaxed authority. His steady breathing sets a tranquil rhythm for the entire family. As the heat of the summer day softens into a refreshing coolness, a palpable shift ripples through the younger members of the troop. Infants and juveniles, full of unspent vitality after a day of following their mothers, begin to stir. Their soft, inquiring grunts drift across the glade. The stage is set for the evening's final, joyful chapter, a natural prelude to the peaceful slumber that awaits beneath the gathering stars. Sparks of play ignite without warning in the heart of the glade. A juvenile male suddenly tosses his head, breaks into an exaggerated, bouncing gallop, and slaps the ground with open palms. It is a classic invitation to tumble, rooted deep in primate psychology as a vital rehearsal for adult life. Across the mossy mound, a peer responds with a low, throaty chuckle, instantly joining the chase. The infant watches the sudden burst of motion with wide, curious eyes. Drawn by the infectious energy, the little one takes a few unsteady steps forward, its round belly swaying with each movement. This spontaneous rough-and-tumble interaction is far more than mere amusement. It is a foundational classroom of motor skills. As the youngsters roll and grapple, their developing brains map out spatial awareness, muscle control, and the delicate limits of physical force. Every clumsy tumble and mock bite helps calibrate their growing bodies for the physical demands of maturity. Another juvenile barrels past, sweeping the infant into a gentle tumble over a patch of soft clover. There is no real aggression here, only the pure joy of movement and social discovery. Soft infant grunts fill the air, blending harmoniously with the rustling grass under their sliding feet. They pull each other's fuzzy ears, roll down the gentle incline, and bounce back up with boundless enthusiasm. In these fleeting, sunlit moments, the intricate social tapestry of the troop is quietly woven, thread by playful thread, binding the rising generation together in a shared web of trust and affection. A few paces away, two older juveniles square off in a theatrical display of mock dominance. One rears upright on stubby legs, striking its chest with cupped hands in a miniature imitation of the silverback's thunderous proclamation. The sound is more of a hollow pat than a boom, yet the psychological intent is unmistakable. Primate psychology reveals that these exaggerated postures allow youngsters to practice adult signaling within a safe, forgiving boundary. They learn the vocabulary of their society long before they ever need to use it. The infant sits nearby, absorbing every motion with heavy, drooping eyelids, driven by the primal instinct to mimic, The little one wobbles to its feet, lifts its small arms, and drops them clumsily against its chest. A soft, contented sigh escapes its lips as it tumbles forward onto its padded hands, thoroughly exhausted by the rehearsal. Engagement soon shifts from grand displays back to tender, ground-level wrestling. The peers lock arms in slow, deliberate grapples, rolling side by side through the cooling clover. There are no sudden lunges or sharp teeth. Instead, the bites are inhibited, delivered with gentle taps and soft mumbles. This behavioral inhibition is a crucial milestone in social development, teaching juveniles how to meter their strength and maintain harmony within the group. Muscle fibers lengthen and tone under the summer warmth, while balance improves with every uncoordinated sprawl. As the energetic matches gently subside into quiet sprawling, the youngsters lean against one another, chests rising and falling in unison. The golden breeze carries the last whispers of the day across the glade, resting over the resting bodies. Just beyond the edge of the clover, half submerged in the tall, amber-tipped grass, the older guardians of the troop rest in postures of profound, unhurried ease. The dominant silverback lounges on a broad hip, his massive silver saddle catching the final slanted rays of the summer sun. His expression is one of serene detachment, yet his peripheral awareness remains absolute. Beside him, several mothers recline comfortably, their broad chests rising and falling with deep, steady breaths. One mother languidly grooms the fur of her companion, parting the dark strands with slow, rhythmic fingers in a timeless display of social bonding. In the complex tapestry of primate psychology, this benign adult tolerance creates a sanctuary of security. The presence of the massive silverback and the tranquil mothers establishes an invisible, protective boundary around the glade. Within this secure perimeter, the infants are free to explore, stumble, and test the limits of their growing bodies without a trace of anxiety. The adults do not intervene in the tumbling matches, understanding that these gentle skirmishes are essential laboratories for motor skills and social integration. Instead, heavy-lidded eyes simply track the rolling forms with quiet affection. Every now and then, a breathless youngster tumbles backward directly into a mother's lap. The female barely shifts her weight, merely offering a low, rumbling throat purr of reassurance before wrapping a heavy, leather-skinned hand around the wandering toddler to guide it gently back toward the center of the family circle. This seamless blending of freedom and watchful containment allows the younger generation to exhaust their remaining daylight energy in absolute safety, anchoring their growing minds to the steady, beating heart of the troop. As the golden light softens into violet twilight, the energetic games gradually slow down. The long, playful shadows across the grassy glade stretch and blur into the gathering dusk. Heavy limbs grow heavy with sweet exhaustion, and the frantic pace of wrestling matches melts into slow-motion tumbling and soft, contented rolling. The exuberant grunts and high-pitched play barks drift away, replaced by the gentle rustling of evening grass stirred by a cooling breeze. The youngsters tire out completely, their internal rhythms synchronizing with the descending night. One by one, they abandon their mock chest beating and return to the comforting physical proximity of their mothers. This transition from high-energy socialization to restful quietude is a vital regulatory mechanism, helping the developing primate brain process the day's motor learning and social cues. Returning to the warmth of maternal fur, the little ones sink into quiet grooming and rest. Soft, rhythmic scratching fingers comb through tired shoulders, easing taut muscles and lowering heart rates. The infant leans its warm head against a broad, familiar chest, breathing in the rich, earthy scent of the forest and family. Distant forest bird calls echo softly through the darkening canopy, bidding the day farewell. In the deepening shadows, the troop becomes a single, breathing entity of peace, embraced by the quiet hush of the coming night. As the violet twilight deepens into a velvet canopy, the great silverback rises from his resting spot, signaling the final transition of the evening. Guided by ancient instincts, the family unit begins a slow, deliberate procession toward a sheltered thicket at the edge of the clearing. Primate psychology reveals that sleeping site selection is a careful calculation of safety, comfort, and microclimate protection, ensuring the troop remains secure from nocturnal elements. In this chosen alcove of dense vegetation, the heavy work of nest construction begins. The adults use their immense strength to snap nearby saplings, weaving branches and leafy fronds into circular, mattress-like depressions on the ground. This nightly nest-building behavior is a crucial cognitive milestone, passed down through generations. Even the tired juveniles playfully mimic the adults, bending stray blades of grass and piling leaves around them in clumsy, endearing imitations. Soon, the rustling canopy quiets as each family member settles into their freshly woven bed. Mothers cradle their infants close within the protective curve of their arms, anchoring group cohesion through continuous physical contact. The ambient sounds of the summer forest shift into a nocturnal symphony, the steady chirp of crickets, the sigh of a gentle breeze through overhead leaves, and the deep, rhythmic breathing of resting giants. Enveloped in warmth and security, the little gorilla lets its heavy eyelids drift closed. Safe within the heart of the troop, surrounded by familiar heartbeats and the deep, earthy scent of the forest floor, the young primate surrenders entirely to the restorative peace of the warm summer night. The last golden rays of the summer sun slip below the volcanic skyline, casting long, peaceful shadows across the towering ferns and damp bamboo thickets of the Virunga Mountains. As the vibrant hues of twilight dissolve into a soft, velvety indigo, the mountain hollow embraces a profound stillness. In this sheltered sanctuary, the gorilla troop has finished its evening routine. Each member rests within a newly constructed bed of woven branches and crushed foliage, perfectly tailored for a night of undisturbed slumber. Great apes are meticulous nest builders, bending and folding the surrounding vegetation to create secure, insulated platforms that elevate them slightly from the cool earth. At the heart of this quiet encampment lies the youngest member of the family. The infant gorilla settles deeply into the safety of its mother's nighttime nest, immediately pressing its small form against her broad chest. This close physical contact is essential for thermoregulation, as the infant relies entirely on maternal body warmth to maintain its core temperature through the descending night air. As the mother's chest rises and falls in a slow, steady rhythm, the infant finds an anchor of absolute security. The rhythmic sound of her breathing, paired with the familiar, earthy scent of her fur, signals that the day's foraging and play are officially over. Around them, the gentle mountain breeze begins to whisper through the canopy, accompanied by the faint, distant hum of nocturnal insects settling into the darkness. The world outside the hollow fades away, leaving only the quiet pulse of the forest and the deep, restorative peace of the summer night. As complete darkness finally envelops the steep slopes of the Virungas, the mountain soundscape undergoes a gentle, lulling transformation. The warm air of the summer day retreats, replaced by a cool, refreshing current that drifts down from the higher volcanic peaks. Gentle mountain breezes sweep gracefully through the towering canopy overhead, causing giant fern fronds and broad-leaved lobelias to brush against one another in a whisper of rustling foliage. Farther down the valley, a chorus of distant nocturnal insects begins to vibrate, providing a steady, hypnotic hum that reverberates softly through the damp earth. This acoustic tapestry acts as a natural white noise, masking the faint sounds of the wider ecosystem and enveloping the sleeping primates in a cocoon of auditory safety. Within the sheltered hollow, The acoustic focus narrows to the intimate interior of the nesting site. Here, the slow, rhythmic breathing of the adult female creates a deeply reassuring anchor for the resting infant. In the science of great ape behavior, this constant acoustic and tactile feedback is vital. It reinforces the social bonds that hold the troop together and lowers the heart rate of the developing youngster. The infant listens, lulled by the familiar cadence of inhalations and exhalations, feeling completely protected from the vast, dark wilderness just beyond the nest's rim. As the hours of darkness drift onward, the ambient temperature continues its slow descent, yet the infant remains perfectly insulated. Nest-sharing behavior in these high-altitude environments maximizes heat retention, ensuring that the precious hours of REM sleep remain uninterrupted. Surrounded by the quiet hum of the night and cradled by maternal warmth, the young gorilla drifts further into a state of profound, restorative rest, its small chest rising and falling in effortless harmony with the ancient rhythm of the mountain. Beyond the rim of the maternal nest, the sleeping hollow reveals a larger portrait of familial devotion. Mountain gorillas never face the darkness and isolation. Instead, the entire troop rests in a carefully spaced cluster of ground nests, forming an invisible, cooperative shield of security across the forest floor. In this dense community arrangement, most family members sleep within arm's reach of one another, maintaining a profound tactile connection even in slumber. Primate behavioral studies show that this communal sleeping pattern serves a vital protective function. While nocturnal predators are rare in the high virungas, the collective vigilance of a tightly knit troop provides an inherent sense of safety that allows every individual to achieve deep, restorative sleep. If a stray branch snaps or an unfamiliar sound echoes through the valley, multiple sets of ears remain attuned to the environment. Just a few yards away, the dominant silverback rests heavily in his own expansive night nest. Acting as a silent sentinel, his massive form commands the center of the sleeping cluster. Though he appears entirely at peace, his mere presence anchors the troop's peace of mind. He absorbs the cool mountain air with slow, deliberate breaths, a towering figure of quiet authority. As the night deepens, this constellation of shared nests breathes together. The soft rustle of a restless juvenile shifting in a neighboring bed, or the muffled sigh of an adult female settling deeper into her foliage, creates a gentle ripple of shared awareness. Secure within this ring of kin, the sleeping infant rests completely unguarded, cradled not only by its mother, but by the steady, encompassing strength of the entire family. High above the equatorial line, the Virunga Mountains harbor a swift atmospheric shift once darkness takes full hold. Even during the height of summer, the high-altitude air cools rapidly as the radiant heat of the volcanic earth escapes upward through the canopy. For a newborn gorilla, whose internal thermoregulatory systems are still maturing, this nocturnal temperature drop presents a physiological challenge. Nature meets this challenge through intimate physical biology. Pressed firmly against its mother's chest, the infant is enveloped in a dense canopy of coarse, insulating black hair that traps a pocket of stable, body-warmed air. The mother's massive thermal mass acts as a biological heater, maintaining the infant's core temperature within the narrow, optimal range required for metabolic rest. In this thermal sanctuary, the young ape drifts smoothly into rapid eye movement sleep. It is during these quiet nocturnal hours that the infant's brain processes the day's sensory discoveries, consolidating memories and driving the rapid neural development characteristic of great apes. Hormonal secretions, vital for somatic growth and tissue repair, peak during this phase of deep, uninterrupted slumber. Every steady inhalation from the mother offers a physical rhythm that lulls the infant deeper into rest. A soft, contented sigh escapes the little one's lips as its tiny fingers relax their grip on her fur. finally letting go into complete peacefulness. Protected by the surrounding forest and fueled by maternal warmth, the infant surrenders entirely to the restorative quiet, resting safely until the first pale light touches the misty peaks of dawn. Hours pass in profound tranquility across the high-altitude slopes. The mountain hollow rests softly under a vast, cloud-filtered sky, untouched by the complexities of the waking world. Above the canopy, pale starlight sifts through the fronds of towering tree ferns, casting faint, silvery shadows over the sleeping forest floor. Every member of the family troop is locked in deep repose, their heavy frames relaxed completely within the cradling embrace of their leafy ground nests. In the cool stillness of midnight, this synchronized rest serves an evolutionary purpose, conserving valuable metabolic energy when foraging is impossible. The silverback, resting nearby, stirs only slightly to adjust his bulk before settling back into heavy, rhythmic breathing. His powerful presence forms an invisible barrier of security around the sleeping family. The stillness of the forest deepens with every passing hour. The gentle mountain breeze slows to a gentle whisper, moving barely enough to brush against the waxy leaves of wild celery and giant lobelias. Distant night insects hum a steady, monotonous lullaby, blending seamlessly with the occasional rustle of a settling frond. There is no urgency here, only the slow, natural passage of time in an ancient wilderness. Nestled securely in the center of this slumbering circle, the infant experiences the purest form of peace. Its tiny chest rises and falls in quiet unison with the great forest around it, held safely within the timeless rhythm of the Virunga night. As the darkest hours of the night begin to wane, a subtle crispness enters the mountain air, hinting at the gradual seasonal shift waiting just beyond the horizon. Summer's long embrace softens, carrying the first faint, cool breath of autumn through the high-altitude canopy. Deep within the sheltered hollow, the infant stirs briefly in its sleep. Driven by an innate instinct for thermal regulation, the tiny form shifts closer to the maternal chest, seeking out the steady, reliable warmth that has shielded it through the hours of darkness. Satisfied by the familiar heartbeat, the young gorilla settles back into deep, restorative slumber, its muscles relaxing completely as rapid eye movement sleep works to process the day's gentle lessons and support its growing nervous system. All around them, the mountain forest waits quietly. The distant night insects fade into a sparse, intermittent hum, and the gentle mountain breeze pauses in the high branches. The first pale, pearlescent light of dawn has yet to touch the eastern peaks, leaving the world suspended in a moment of pure, uninterrupted stillness. In this quiet intermission between night and morning, the sleeping troop remains enveloped in unbroken security, held safely within the timeless rhythm of the ancient Virungas. High upon the volcanic slopes of the Virungas, dawn arrives wrapped in a pale, gossamer mist. The air is remarkably crisp, carrying the unmistakable chill of changing seasons. Autumn has settled over the higher altitude forests, quietly transforming a sea of deep emerald into a breathtaking tapestry of russet, amber, and gold. A gentle forest breeze sweeps through the canopy, carrying the soft, dry rustle of falling leaves as they drift slowly toward the rich, dark soil. Far in the distance, a turaco calls out, its melodious song echoing softly across the sleeping ravine. Amidst this tranquil awakening, the shadows between the hagenia trees begin to stir. High in the branches, woven tightly into temporary platforms of bent twigs and foliage, a family of mountain gorillas prepares to greet the new day. These nocturnal nests, constructed fresh each evening, have kept the troops safe and insulated from the mountain chill. As the morning light filters through the damp foliage, a young male shifts within his nest. No longer an infant, he is now a growing blackback. Easily recognized by the dark patch of hair spanning his broadening back, he stretches his powerful limbs, testing the cool morning air with a deep, contented breath. His body is already undergoing vital seasonal adaptations, his thicker coat providing essential insulation against the falling temperatures of the Highland autumn. With quiet, deliberate grace, he steps out of his night nest and onto the forest floor, ready to join the troop in the peaceful rhythm of the new day. With every passing season, this young male's anatomy tells the story of his steady maturation. His frame is noticeably heavier now, supported by lengthening bones and muscles that ripple beneath his dense black coat. Standing on all fours, his knuckles bear the weight of a formidable adolescent, bridging the delicate boundary between playful youth and the immense responsibility of adulthood. Within the troop's complex social hierarchy, his position is subtly shifting, too. As a blackback, he no longer clings constantly to the protective proximity of his mother. Instead, he occupies a transitional space within the family group, moving with a newfound confidence that commands quiet respect from smaller juveniles, yet remains deferential to the dominant silverback. This growing independence is a vital evolutionary milestone, preparing him for the wide world of the Virunga Mountains. He pauses beside a moss-draped trunk, turning his head to observe the unhurried movements of the troop around him. His dark eyes, intelligent and calm, take in the changing landscape with a mature awareness. Every gesture he makes is deliberate and measured, mirroring the stoic demeanor of the older males. As he beats his chest in a soft, experimental rhythm, more a gentle thump than a thunderous display, it resonates with the quiet strength of his developing body. He is learning the subtle language of posture and pace, perfectly attuned to the peaceful cadence of the highland forest. The morning air carries the crisp, clean scent of damp earth and frost-kissed pine as the family troop begins to stir from their temporary sleeping nests. All around them, the high-altitude forest slowly awakens beneath a canopy of russet and gold. One by one, massive silhouettes detach from the undergrowth, unfolding heavy limbs and stretching in the gentle forest breeze. There is no urgency in their awakening, only the slow, synchronized rhythm of ancient survival. The dominant silverback rises first, casting a sweeping glance across the misty slope before taking the lead. Immediately, the troop forms a cohesive, meandering line of movement, pressing deeper into the changing autumn landscape. Walking quadrupedally, knuckles sinking softly into the damp carpet of fallen leaves, the young blackback finds his place midway through the procession. His posture is steady and upright, a physical manifestation of his changing status. He mirrors the measured stride of the mature females ahead of him, his long arms swinging in an easy, rhythmic cadence that conserves vital energy for the journey ahead. Leaves rustle beneath heavy feet, dry amber foliage snapping in a quiet percussion that blends with distant bird song drifting through the thinning mist. The blackback pauses for a brief moment, letting the line move slightly ahead while he absorbs the subtle cues of the terrain. He watches closely as an adult female expertly parts a dense wall of tangled vines, noting the exact placement of her hands and feet. This quiet observation is a fundamental part of his ecological education, passing down generational knowledge of the mountain's shifting resources. Rejoining the procession without a sound, he steps forward into the dappled shade, perfectly attuned to the peaceful migration of his kin. Ahead of the procession, the dense canopy yields to a towering stand of mountain bamboo, its slender green stalks swaying gently in the crisp mountain wind. The troop pauses at the edge of this favored grove, where the autumn frost has turned the surrounding ferns to a soft amber. For a mountain gorilla, seasonal adaptation requires an intimate knowledge of changing botanical resources, and the tender bamboo shoots hold the key to morning sustenance. The blackback watches intently as the older males and mature females approach the thickest stalks. With practiced precision, An adult female wraps her powerful hands around a mature stem, using her immense grip strength to snap the tough outer layers with a resonant, echoing crack. She peels away the fibrous green sheath, revealing the glistening, succulent inner pith, a rich source of moisture and easily digestible carbohydrates that fuel their heavy frames. Stepping forward with quiet curiosity, the young blackback selects a sturdy stalk of his own. He mimics the precise mechanics he has just observed, curling his strong fingers around the wood and applying steady leverage. With a satisfying snap, the outer casing gives way. He strips the bark away, revealing the pale, moist core, and pulls the tender pith into his mouth. The fibrous texture yields easily, offering a subtly sweet taste that rewards his careful labor. Around him, the grove is filled with the rhythmic snapping of bamboo and the gentle rustle of leaves as the entire family feeds in tranquil harmony, mastering the timeless skills that sustain their lineage upon the mist-shrouded slopes. To extract the most nutritious reward from each bamboo stalk, the young blackback relies upon specialized anatomical adaptations forged through centuries of evolutionary refinement. His broad, flat molars, topped with thick enamel, grind against the fibrous material with immense crushing force, perfectly suited for a diet rich in tough vegetation. Unlike purely carnivorous mammals, folivores depend on intricate dental structures and a specialized digestive tract to break down the resilient cellulose walls of the mountain bamboo. With gentle deliberation, he rotates the pale cylinder of pith in his hands, inspecting his work before taking another slow, measured bite. His manual dexterity has improved noticeably since his juvenile days, each movement of his fingers growing more assured and efficient. This methodical processing requires both patience and fine motor control, traits that become increasingly vital as he transitions into a fully independent member of the troop. As he chews, the rich, watery nourishment flows effortlessly, helping to sustain his growing frame against the crisp autumn chill drifting down from the volcanic peaks. His dark eyes scan the surrounding grove, catching the dappled morning light filtering through the changing leaves of the high-altitude forest. Around him, the gentle rustle of dry foliage and the rhythmic cracking of wood create a soothing, hypnotic auditory tapestry. He rests his weight comfortably against the damp earth, entirely absorbed in the quiet mechanics of foraging. Every deliberate action reinforces his place within the complex social and ecological web of the Virunga slopes, anchoring him peacefully to the timeless rhythms of his mountain home as the quiet morning deepens all around him. Gradually, the urgent rhythm of the early morning hunt eases into a profound, restorative stillness, with their bellies partially full and the crisp bite of the dawn wind softening. The members of the family group begin to settle. The rising sun finally pierces the high mountain canopy, casting long, warm shafts of amber light that slowly dispel the residual chill of the Virunga slopes. Nearby, the silverback reclines against a broad Haginia trunk, his massive frame radiating quiet authority as he grooms a female in a hypnotic, rhythmic cadence. The younger blackback shifts a few feet away, finding a comfortable depression among the soft, russet-colored moss. He rests his elbows on his knees, his heavy eyelids drooping slightly as the satiating warmth of the vegetation takes effect. This peaceful interlude is essential for the troop's social stability. It provides a vital window for quiet communication, gentle tactile bonding, and the subtle reinforcement of hierarchy without the expenditure of unnecessary energy. In this serene atmosphere, social tension drops to near zero. Juveniles groom one another nearby with cautious, clumsy fingers, while infants doze softly against the warm chests of their mothers. The young blackback exhales a long, deep breath, his chest rising and falling in sync with the gentle forest breeze. He is entirely attuned to the tranquil mood of the family, secure in his expanding role and surrounded by the familiar, comforting rustle of autumn leaves. As midday approaches, The entire forest seems to hold its breath in a state of tranquil equilibrium, cradling the resting giants in a deep, undisturbed calm. High above the mist-shrouded valleys, the crisp breath of autumn sweeps across the volcanic slopes, dusting the rugged canopy with subtle shades of russet and gold. In the quiet dawn, the mountain world awakens slowly, accompanied by the gentle rustling of leaves and the distant, melodic notes of forest bird song. Moving with quiet confidence through the steep landscape is a young male gorilla, a developing blackback whose maturing form speaks of steady physical growth. No longer a hesitant juvenile, his broadening shoulders and heavier, more muscular frame carry him effortlessly across the demanding incline. Every step of his quadrupedal knuckle walking is measured and deliberate, utilizing powerful arms and strong wrists designed to shoulder the rigors of high-altitude life. The terrain here is carved by ancient volcanic forces, featuring steep ravines and damp earth cloaked in thick, velvety carpets of emerald moss. As a crisp mountain wind whispers through the towering branches, the blackback pauses briefly atop a rocky outcrop. He listens, his senses attuned to the subtle sounds of the forest, the snapping of distant twigs and the soft footfalls of family members closing the distance behind him. Ahead, the towering figure of the dominant silverback charts the path, choosing footholds with the wisdom of years. The blackback matches this pace, his expanding chest cavity and growing lung capacity handling the thin mountain air with ease. There is a peaceful rhythm to the ascent, a harmonious blend of strength and grace as the troop presses upward into the cooler morning light, leaving the sheltered lowlands far behind. Before the troop stretches a deep, jagged ravine, carved by centuries of seasonal meltwater. This formidable chasm requires absolute mastery of primate locomotion, a true test of balance and immense upper body strength. The blackback steps forward to lead the way across the treacherous drop, his powerful limbs perfectly adapted for this demanding environment. To negotiate the slick incline, his broad hands curl into a sturdy knuckle-walking posture. This specialized gait distributes his substantial weight evenly across thick knuckles and reinforced wrist bones, protecting sensitive finger joints while maintaining a low, stable center of gravity. His wide feet, featuring opposable big toes, grip the damp, moss-covered boulders with remarkable precision, finding purchase where lesser climbers would falter. With measured confidence, he descends the steep earthen wall. His heavily muscled shoulders and long, powerful arms absorb the downward momentum, taking the strain off his lower body as he lowers himself gracefully from root to root. Every movement highlights the evolutionary marvel of his anatomy: dense bone structure, powerful pectoral muscles, and a broad chest designed to anchor his formidable upper frame. A particularly slick patch of ancient tree roots threatens to slip beneath his feet, but his reflexes are instantaneous. He shifts his weight seamlessly, utilizing his arm span to bridge a gap between two mossy stone slabs. There is no rush, only the calm, deliberate execution of pure physical capability. He hoists his muscular bulk upward with a single, fluid pull, clearing the deepest section of the ravine with effortless grace. Safe on the opposite bank, he pauses to shake a few stray droplets of morning dew from his dense, dark fur. He looks back down into the misty ravine, watching as the rest of the family begins their own measured crossing, trusting in the rugged pathway he has just so effortlessly mapped out. Beyond the ravine, the mist parts to reveal a dense, flourishing sanctuary where the high-altitude cloud forest truly thrives. Here, amidst the towering trunks of ancient hagenia trees, a rich tapestry of specialized autumn vegetation carpets the volcanic soil. Wild celery, tender thistle shoots, and stands of emerald bamboo create an abundant, natural pantry tailored for the dietary needs of a growing folivore. The blackback moves quietly into the thicket, his movements transitioning from travel to methodical sustenance. Sustaining a massive primate body requires immense caloric intake, and his foraging choices are guided by generations of inherited ecological knowledge. Reaching out with a broad, calloused hand, he gently snaps a thick stalk of wild celery. His fingers strip away the fibrous outer layers with practiced precision, revealing the succulent, water-rich pith hidden within. He chews slowly, utilizing broad, flat molars equipped with thick enamel ridges designed to pulverize tough plant cell walls. This specialized dentition is vital. It breaks down cellulose that would otherwise pass undigested. His complex stomach and enlarged hindgut act as natural fermentation chambers, housing specialized microbes that slowly extract every ounce of available protein and mineral from the fibrous diet. Around him, the rest of the troop settles into the abundant greenery, accompanied by the gentle rustling of leaves and the snapping of tender twigs. The crisp mountain wind hums softly through the canopy overhead, carrying the earthy scent of damp moss and crushed vegetation. The young male selects a tender bamboo shoot, peeling back the green sheath to enjoy the nutritious core. Each deliberate bite fuels his steady growth, anchoring him deeply within the rhythms of the mountain ecosystem as the morning gently deepens. The art of pith extraction requires patience and fine motor skill, traits the young blackback displays with increasing grace. He approaches a sturdy stalk of giant thistle, its exterior wrapped in a formidable array of protective spines. Where a less experienced adolescent might hesitate, his broad fingers work with sure-footed confidence. He grips the prickly stem firmly, his thick knuckles and leather-padded palms completely shielded from the microscopic barbs. With a swift, twisting motion, he scores the tough outer skin and peels it backward in long, ribbon-like strands. Inside lies the prize, a pristine cylinder of tender, glistening pith. This inner core is dense with moisture and easily digestible sugars, offering a vital burst of energy for the arduous climbs ahead. He lifts the pale morsel to his mouth, savoring the cool, vegetal sweetness before returning his attention to the surrounding thicket. Nearby, a veteran female demonstrates an alternative technique, using her lower incisors as a natural chisel to scrape away stubborn bark from a woody vine. The blackback observes her quiet labor, mirroring the precise angle of her jaw to test the method on a nearby sapling. Every motion is deliberate, measured, and unhurried, reflecting the deep tranquility of the ancient forest. As the mountain air warms just slightly under the rising sun, the rhythmic snapping of stalks and the soft rustle of peeling leaves create a soothing, hypnotic cadence. The troop feeds as one cohesive unit, deeply attuned to the seasonal abundance of the volcanic slopes, resting comfortably in the rich, green embrace of the highland shadows. Higher up the ridge, the massive silhouette of the dominant silverback pauses against the skyline. He stands broad and still, his silver-frothed saddle catching the pale morning light as he turns his heavy head to survey the sprawling valley below. A crisp mountain wind ripples through his dense fur, carrying scents from distant ridges and signaling a subtle shift in the troop's morning route. With a low, resonant rumble deep in his chest, the leader communicates his intention to move onward. It is a soft, guttural vocalization, a contact grunt that binds the family together across the uneven terrain. The blackback hears the familiar signal instantly. He pauses his feeding, lifts his head, and acknowledges the command with a quiet, answering breath. Maintaining a respectful distance behind the elder male, the young blackback settles easily into the line of march. He does not crowd the patriarch, yet he stays close enough to remain securely integrated within the social hierarchy of the family. Ahead, the silverback chooses a path through a natural opening in the moss-draped undergrowth, his powerful limbs effortlessly pressing aside the tangled vegetation. Every member of the troop adjusts their pace in unison, falling into a synchronized rhythm of soft footfalls and gentle rustling leaves. Distant birdsong drifts through the upper canopy, blending with the steady whispering of the wind through the branches. The blackback steps carefully in the silverback's large footprints, his dark eyes scanning the shifting terrain with quiet confidence. This silent choreography of leadership and followership sustains the peaceful harmony of the troop as they continue their steady journey toward the higher altitudes. As the morning sun climbs higher, warming the damp volcanic soil, the steady pace of the ascent gradually softens. The crisp mountain wind subsides into a gentle, sun-warmed breeze that rustles the high-altitude leaves above. Having satisfied their morning hunger with hours of fibrous stems and rich pith, the troop's collective movements grow unhurried and deliberate. The silverback leads the family into a sheltered clearing dappled with golden autumn light. Here, beneath the sheltering canopy of towering hagenia trees, the ground is cushioned by a thick carpet of emerald moss. One by one, the family members settle into the welcoming vegetation, allowing the complex process of folivore digestion to take over. Within their specialized, multi-chambered stomachs, beneficial gut microbes slowly break down the heavy cellulose from the morning's harvest, generating gentle, sustained warmth throughout their large frames. The young blackback finds a comfortable hollow between two mossy roots, his muscles relaxing after the rigorous climb. He stretches his powerful limbs out before him, letting his heavy eyelids droop in the tranquil warmth. Across the clearing, soft grunts of contentment pass between resting family members as they begin to engage in lazy, rhythmic grooming sessions. Fingers carefully part thick fur, easing away stray bits of moss and debris in a soothing, hypnotic cadence that reinforces their ancient social bonds. The forest around them grows wonderfully still. Only the occasional snapping of a distant twig or the soft sigh of a resting companion disturbs the quiet. Safe within the heart of the family, surrounded by the peaceful embrace of the ancient mountain, the blackback breathes deeply, drifting slowly toward a well-earned slumber. High upon the mist-shrouded slopes, where the crisp mountain air carries the earthy scent of approaching autumn, the great troop moves in a slow, deliberate procession. The midday foraging is over, and as the shadows stretch long and amber across the forest floor, the dominant silverback leads his family into a deeply sheltered hollow. Here, the canopy of ancient hagenia trees blocks the brisk alpine wind, creating a quiet sanctuary carpeted entirely in a thick, russet layer of dry autumn leaves. With unhurried grace, the massive apes begin to settle. Each individual bends and folds the brittle foliage into a temporary day nest, pressing down the crisp vegetation with broad palms and heavy, rhythmic sighs. The ambient sounds of the mountain gradually shift. The energetic snapping of woody stems and distant chest beats fade, replaced by the gentle rasp of rustling leaves, the lazy hum of late-season insects, and the soft, contented grunts of a family finding peace. This transition from active travel to passive rest is a crucial biological rhythm for gorilla barangay. Digestion slows, metabolic rates ease, and the social engine of the troop shifts gear. Among the resting figures is a lean, spirited blackback, his glossy black coat catching the warm, slanting rays of the sun. He pauses in his nest building, casting a relaxed glance toward the older troop members who are already sinking heavily into the leaf litter. The frantic energy of the morning is entirely dissolved, leaving behind a profound stillness that invites connection. In this sheltered basin, shielded from the wider world, the afternoon slows to a gentle, breathing pace, preparing the great primates for the quiet intimacy of social grooming that is soon to come. In the amber glow of the sheltered hollow, the air fills with the soothing rhythm of manual care. Grooming among mountain gorillas is far more than a simple hygienic exercise. It is an intricate, tactile language that binds the family together. With meticulous precision, an adult female parts the dense, coarse fur of a companion, her fingers working with delicate dexterity through the black strands. She searches patiently for dried debris, loose skin flakes, and ectoparasites, her thumbnail clicking softly whenever an object of interest is found and discarded. This rhythmic manipulation of hair provides powerful physiological benefits. As nimble fingers comb through the thick pelage, repetitive tactile stimulation triggers the release of endorphins, lowering the heart rate and inducing a profound state of biological relaxation. The recipient of this attention often closes heavy eyelids, leaning heavily into the touch with a posture of absolute surrender. Soft, throaty murmurs, known as contentment grunts, vibrate through the cool autumn air, signaling trust and social harmony. Nearby, the young blackback watches the methodical movements before gently reaching out to mirror the behavior. He practices the fine motor skills required to part fur and inspect skin, learning that patience and precision are paramount. By participating in this mutual exchange, the adolescent not only helps maintain the physical cleanliness of the troop, but actively negotiates his place within the complex social hierarchy. Every gentle stroke, shared breath, and reassuring press of palm against shoulder reinforces the deep emotional architecture of the family, smoothing away the microscopic frictions of daily life beneath the quiet canopy. Nearby, the young blackback shifts his weight against the rustling autumn leaves, eager to test his own burgeoning social skills. He sidles up to an older, tolerant female resting nearby and extends a large, leathery hand toward her broad shoulder. With clumsy yet earnest concentration, his thick fingers begin to part the dark, heavy thatch of coarse hair, mimicking the rhythmic techniques he has observed for years. This reciprocal exchange is a vital developmental milestone. Through practice, the adolescent refines the fine motor control needed to manipulate dense pelage while learning the subtle nuances of primate etiquette. When he inadvertently pulls a strand too firmly, she issues a low, warning rumble, a gentle acoustic nudge that teaches him the boundaries of touch. Instantly, the blackback softens his grip, smoothing the fur back down with a conciliatory pat. She responds with a soft, breathy hoot, a vocalization that immediately restores social equilibrium and reassures the youngster of his secure standing within the troop. Surrounding them, the late afternoon insects hum a drowsy chorus, blending with the occasional melodic trill of a high canopy bird. As the golden light shifts toward amber, other youngsters drift closer, joining in loose, overlapping chains of physical contact. Each careful stroke and reciprocal groom acts as a social currency, measuring trust and diffusing the minor tensions that inevitably arise within a closely bonded family. Resting his chin comfortably against the cool earth, the blackback continues his steady task, breathing in sync with the relaxed, sleeping forest around him. Beneath the amber canopy, the atmosphere thickens with a symphony of quiet contentment. Communication among mountain gorillas relies heavily on this subtle acoustic landscape. A low-pitched, guttural hum, often called a contentment rumble, vibrates through the chest of an adult female as she accepts the blackback's careful ministrations. This deep vocalization operates as a sonic anchor, broadcasting a physiological state of ease to every nearby troop member. Primate behavioral biologists recognize these murmurs as critical mechanisms for reducing cortisol levels and maintaining group cohesion without escalating physical energy. When the blackback responds with a tiny, high-pitched squeak of acknowledgement, he is practicing the rudimentary grammar of ape diplomacy. These vocal exchanges bridge the gap between touch and trust, creating an auditory safety net across the sheltered hollow. As the gentle wind stirs the dry autumn leaves into a soft, papery whisper, the overlapping grunts swell into a rhythmic chorus. Every murmur, sigh, and breathy hoot serves as an acoustic reassurance, telling the developing adolescent that he is safe, accepted, and an integral thread in the family fabric. The insects slow their drowsy hum, matching the descending tempo of the afternoon. Eyes grow heavy in the fading warmth. and the great apes sink deeper into the rustling earth, wrapped in a blanket of sound that whispers the day toward its quiet close. High above the volcanic ridges, the sun begins its slow descent, casting long, bruised streaks of gold and violet across the ancient canopy. The amber light filters down through layers of cascading foliage, transforming the sheltered hollow into a cathedral of warm illumination. Suspended in the slanting rays, millions of tiny dust motes and drifting autumn leaves catch the fire of the dying day, swirling lazily in the quiet air like a gentle indoor snowfall. This atmospheric shift brings a profound visual stillness to the troupe. The brilliant beams paint glowing highlights across the thick, coarse pelts of the resting great apes, outlining their broad shoulders and heavy brows in sharp relief against the darkening forest floor. Every individual seems sculpted from bronze and shadow, anchored deeply to the earth. As the illumination deepens, the forest cools perceptibly. The transition of light triggers a biological cue, slowing metabolic rates as the ambient temperature drops. The blackback stretches his limbs, his dark fur catching the last bright embers of sunlight before he settles back into the rustling leaves. Around him, the elders close their heavy eyelids against the failing glare, their breathing falling into a deep, synchronized rhythm. The amber glow slowly dissolves into a soft, bruised twilight, washing the mountain slopes in a wash of muted indigo. Shadows lengthen and merge, swallowing the borders of the clearing until only the quiet rustle of shifting bodies and the whispered sigh of the evening wind remain. The forest prepares for sleep, wrapped in the comforting embrace of the gathering dark. The deep indigo of twilight now drapes softly over the volcanic slopes, signaling the end of the afternoon resting period. Within the sheltered hollow, the mountain gorillas slowly begin to shift their massive forms. This gentle stirring is synchronized by shared hormonal cues that respond to the fading daylight, dropping core body temperatures and prompting a collective transition from rest to the evening routine. With quiet grace, the dominant silverback pushes himself upward on his knuckles, his immense weight causing the dry autumn leaves to give way with a muffled sigh. He offers a low, rumbling, throat-clearing vocalization, a contact call that ripples through the family group, communicating readiness and re-establishing spatial cohesion before nightfall. One by one, the troop members rise from their daytime resting impressions. The growing blackback stretches his arms wide, yawning deeply to reveal powerful jaws before following the elders toward the perimeter of the hollow. They move deliberately, treading softly over the rustling carpet of fallen foliage. The cool mountain air carries the rich scent of damp earth and crushed leaves as the apes begin the ritual task of selecting fresh bedding sites. Using their broad hands, they bend and weave sturdy branches of wild celery and ferns into secure, ground-level sleeping platforms. This instinctive nest-building behavior ensures insulation from the chilling soil throughout the night. As the last lingering daylight fades into a sky of brilliant stars, the troop settles into their newly fashioned nests, surrounded by family and wrapped in the quiet security of the darkening forest. The great apes rest their heavy heads, drifting peacefully into the stillness of the mountain night. High upon the volcanic slopes of the Virunga Mountains, the amber warmth of the autumn day surrenders slowly to the encroaching chill of evening. A crisp mountain breeze whispers through the canopy, carrying the earthy scent of damp soil and drying foliage. Above the jagged silhouettes of the ancient ridges, the sky transforms into a vast canvas of violet, crimson, and deep indigo. The fading sunlight catches the frosted tips of high-altitude grasses, painting the rugged landscape in gentle hues of gold and rust. As twilight deepens, the mountain gorilla troop begins to wind down its daily foraging activities, shifting from the energetic rhythms of daytime movement toward the quiet stillness of evening rest. For months, the growing blackback has shared the sheltering embrace of its mother's massive sleeping nest, wrapped in maternal warmth and protected by familiar routines. But tonight, the cooling autumn air carries a subtle invitation toward change. Across the ridge, the deep, resonant grunts of the silverback signal the gathering of the family, a comforting chorus that echoes softly against the darkening rocks. Distant bird calls fade into the quiet, replaced by the rhythmic rustling of autumn leaves settling beneath heavy footsteps. The young gorilla pauses amidst the darkening brush, its dark eyes reflecting the fading sky as it looks toward the ground beneath its feet. Primate development reaches a quiet milestone in these transitional hours, guided by years of silent observation and innate biological instincts. The stage is set for the evening routines of independence, waiting patiently in the gathering shadows of the mountain night. The young blackback stands very still among the fading shadows, its gaze sweeping over the forest floor as spatial awareness guides its search for the ideal foundation. Unlike the canopy nests built by smaller primates, great apes construct robust ground beds that require careful site assessment for thermoregulation and safety. The blackback considers the slope of the ridge, testing the firmness of the damp soil and noting how nearby bushes might buffer the rising mountain breeze. Every great ape inherits a deeply ingrained mental map of nest-building mechanics, yet this decision-making process marks a true test of behavioral independence. Just a short distance away, the reassuring murmurs and soft grunts of the family group drift through the cooling air. The blackback glances toward the familiar silverback, measuring the distance with careful deliberation. It seeks autonomy, but not isolation. Proximity to the troop remains essential for nocturnal security. A patch of dense, resilient ferns beneath the arching shelter of a wild celery stalk catches the young gorilla's attention. The soil here is dry, slightly elevated, and well shielded from the descending frost. With a slow, contemplative breath, the blackback steps forward onto the chosen patch, turning in a sluggish circle to pack down the loose earth. The crisp scent of autumn leaves rises around it, mingling with the rich aroma of volcanic loam. The spot is secure, sheltered, and entirely its own. Now begins the physical architecture of the night bed, an intricate sequence refined through years of silent, watchful observation of older troop members. The blackback reaches out with a powerful arm, grasping a thick stem of wild celery. With a measured tug, the woody stalk yields, bending inward toward the center of the chosen circle without snapping completely. This vital technique, bending rather than breaking, preserves a living anchor, ensuring the foundation remains tethered to the earth throughout the night. More branches are gathered from the surrounding undergrowth. The young gorilla pulls in long fronds of bracken fern and leafy blackberry stems, layering them systematically around its perimeter. Each motion is deliberate, driven by a blend of evolutionary instinct and newly matured spatial awareness. The blackback weaves the flexible green shoots together, crossing them over one another in an alternating pattern just like an experienced silverback. As the sturdy circular framework takes shape, the structure gains a secure, bowl-like integrity capable of supporting the growing ape's weight. With the outer rim firmly secured, the young primate focuses on the interior. It gathers great armfuls of soft moss and fallen autumn leaves, heaping them into the center to create a thick, insulating mattress. The foliage is patted down with slow, rhythmic movements of heavy palms, trapping pockets of air that will provide essential thermoregulation against the descending chill of the mountain air. A final, careful adjustment of a leafy bough overhead completes the framework. The blackback steps back for a brief moment, inspecting its handiwork with a soft, contented rumble vibrating deep within its chest. The architectural labor transitions seamlessly into the delicate art of interior curation. With the structural cradle securely bound, the young blackback turns its attention to thermal optimization, a crucial survival strategy as the Virunga mountain temperatures begin their steep evening descent. Reaching low to the damp earth, Long fingers gently rake together thick carpets of velvet green moss and piles of dry, crackling autumn leaves. These organic materials are carried in armfuls to the center of the leafy bowl, where they are meticulously teased apart and distributed. This deliberate fluffing process maximizes microscopic air pockets within the vegetation layer, utilizing natural thermodynamics to create an efficient insulating barrier against the cold ground below. Primate nest construction is an energy-efficient engineering marvel, and this nascent mattress is no exception. The blackback compresses the padding with rhythmic, sweeping motions of heavy palms, ensuring an even, contoured surface that cradles the contours of its growing body. Every added frond and scraped-together leaf enhances the microclimate of the refuge, transforming raw foliage into a snug, heat-retaining sanctuary. A final handful of dry forest duff is brushed into the outer corners, smoothing any protruding stems that might disrupt the stillness of the coming night. Satisfied with the deep, cushioned basin, the adolescent exhales a long, warm breath, the visible plume dissolving into the crisp evening air. The sanctuary is complete, tailored perfectly for comfort, safety, and warmth under the fading violet sky. The time for hesitation has passed. Stepping carefully into the center of the freshly lined basin, the young blackback turns in a slow, deliberate circle. It tests the give of the mossy mattress, settling its weight downward until the springy architecture molds perfectly to its growing frame. With a low, contented murmur that vibrates softly in its chest, the adolescent curls into a tight, crescent-shaped posture. This classic fetal tuck minimizes surface area and conserves precious metabolic heat, an innate physiological response shared across all great apes as ambient temperatures plummet. Just a few yards away, the familiar silhouettes of the family troop merge into the deepening twilight. Low, rumbling grunts pass quietly between the resting adults, offering an auditory blanket of reassurance across the clearing. The blackback raises its head slightly, casting a quiet gaze toward the maternal form of its mother, who rests nearby. A profound sense of quiet maturity washes over the young primate. No longer sharing the flattened, trampled grass of an infant's sleeping spot, it occupies a structure forged by its own newly mastered skills. A crisp mountain breeze whispers through the darkening canopy, rustling the autumn leaves high above, but the sanctuary remains snug and undisturbed. Heavy eyelids flutter and slowly close as the last lingering traces of violet fade from the western horizon. Surrounded by the gentle symphony of rising night insects and the steady breathing of the family, the blackback drifts into deep, restorative slumber, anchored securely in the heart of the ancient Virunga Mountains. High above the rugged Virunga crests, the brilliant canopy of the Milky Way begins to stretch across the velvet vault of heaven. Constellations that have guided ancient migrations slowly emerge, casting a faint silver luminescence over the jagged mountain silhouettes. The transition from twilight to true night is absolute. Every trace of crimson and violet has dissolved into deep indigo, leaving the landscape bathed in the quiet majesty of autumn darkness. Across the sleeping clearing, all movement ceases. The massive forms of the silverback and the resting females are now only gentle, shadowy mounds, perfectly insulated within their own leafy bowers. A profound stillness settles over the ancient forest, broken only by the rhythmic, pulsing chorus of nocturnal insects and the occasional soft sigh of a dreaming primate. In his newly constructed sanctuary, the young blackback rests in absolute peace. The woven branches and soft moss lining hold the warmth of his body efficiently against the dropping temperatures of the high-altitude night. His steady, even breathing matches the slow cadence of the crisp mountain breeze drifting softly through the dormant branches above. Every muscle is fully relaxed, recovering from the day's exertions and growing stronger beneath the shelter of the mountain. Securely anchored in his first independent nest, Surrounded by the quiet presence of his family, he drifts deeper into the healing stillness of the mountain night. High above the shadowed ravines of the mountain slopes, the last bruised embers of twilight surrender to the quiet advance of night. The forest canopy, thick with ancient hagenia trees and towering ferns, dissolves into a velvety cloak of darkness. As the sun dips far below the jagged western ridges, the daytime chatter of the high-altitude wilderness fades entirely, replaced by the deep, resonant hush of the autumn woods. With the sudden loss of solar radiation, the mountain air begins its steady, predictable descent in temperature. Heat radiates rapidly upward into the clear, starlit stratosphere, chilling the damp understory. Yet deep within this cradle of ancient vegetation, a young blackback rests in profound security. Earlier this evening, he wove a fresh mattress of springy branches and broad leaves, crafting a temporary sanctuary perfectly tailored to his growing frame. Now, nestled securely within his newly built nest, he experiences the absolute stillness of the nocturnal world. Ambient sounds are few, rendered soft and distant by the heavy mountain air. A gentle wind whispers through the upper branches, carrying the faint, crisp scent of approaching frost. Somewhere in the sprawling valley below, a lone owl calls out with a low, resonant hoot, while tiny nocturnal insects weave a barely perceptible hum among the damp moss. A dry twig snaps softly in the distance, a harmless nocturnal murmur that does not disturb the pervasive peace. Surrounded by the deep silence of the ecosystem, the blackback shifts his weight just slightly, exhaling a slow, measured breath that settles into the cool night, anchoring him peacefully to the rhythms of the earth. As the mountain mercury falls toward freezing, the blackback's anatomy proves its worth against the alpine chill. Evolution has gifted these high-altitude great apes with a remarkable biological defense, a coat of thick, coarse black fur that grows considerably longer and denser than that of their lowland relatives. This specialized pelage acts as a primary barrier against the elements, trapping microscopic layers of warm air directly against the skin. Each individual hair shaft functions as natural insulation, standing slightly on end to create a thermal microclimate. This clever thermodynamic adaptation effectively shields the primate's body from the biting frost creeping through the canopy. Beneath this heavy woolen blanket of fur, a thick layer of subcutaneous fat provides an additional reserve of metabolic warmth, ensuring that core body temperatures remain remarkably stable throughout the long, cold hours of the night. Physiologically, the blackback's metabolism slows in tandem with the dropping temperatures, shifting into a restorative state of energy conservation. His heart rate steadies into a slow, rhythmic cadence, and his muscles relax completely within the supportive cradle of woven branches. There is no shivering, no restless movement, only the quiet, efficient maintenance of internal heat driven by millions of years of specialized adaptation. High in the silent cloud forest, where autumn nights demand resilience, the body of the young gorilla operates as a finely tuned engine of survival. Enveloped in his own dark mantle, he rests in complete physiological harmony with the wilderness, completely insulated from the quiet cold that breathes softly through the starlit trees. Though each member of the troop rests within a separate sleeping platform, no one is truly isolated. The silverback's nest anchors the center of the clearing, surrounded by the smaller beds of the females and young ones, all placed just a few arm lengths apart. This deliberate clustering creates a communal sanctuary of shared warmth and profound social reassurance, deeply rooted in the evolutionary history of great apes. Proximity serves a vital biological function on these freezing slopes. By sleeping close together, the family members pool their ambient body heat, gently warming the microlayer of mountain air that drifts between their nests. The quiet sounds of the night reinforce this invisible web of connection. Across the sleeping site, the steady, rhythmic breathing of mothers and infants rises and falls in a synchronized chorus. a soothing acoustic signal of collective safety. Occasionally, a soft rustling of leaves drifts through the darkness as a juvenile shifts its weight or settles more deeply into its woven bed. These familiar, gentle movements do not disturb the peace. Instead, they serve as subtle touch points of reassurance, confirming to every sleeping animal that the family remains intact and watchful, even in the deepest hours of the night. In this sheltered clearing, the boundaries between individuals blur into a unified sense of security. Wrapped in the quiet shelter of the mountain forest, insulated by fur and bolstered by the comforting presence of kin, the troop rests in absolute harmony, cradled by the quiet rhythm of the wild. Beneath the canopy of the starlit mountain forest, the long hours of darkness invite a profound biological transformation. As the nocturnal chill deepens, the blackback drifts past the lighter stages of slumber and descends into the restorative depths of slow-wave sleep. This is a vital phase of nocturnal recovery, orchestrated by the brain to clear metabolic waste, consolidate the day's learned experiences, and repair the heavy muscles that navigated steep foraging slopes only hours before. Inside the shelter of the woven nest, the young ape's physiology shifts to conserve every precious calorie. Heart rate slows, and body temperature dips slightly, an evolutionary adaptation that reduces energy expenditure during the coldest hours of the year. The dense, coarse guard hairs and thick underfur, designed specifically to repel mountain moisture and trap a layer of warm air against the skin, work in quiet harmony with this internal cooling, shielded from the frost that now dusts the outer leaves of the sleeping platform. The blackback is enveloped in a personal microclimate of gentle warmth. With every slow, measured inhalation, the chest rises and falls in an easy, rhythmic cadence. The nocturnal sounds of the mountain, the faint sigh of a gentle wind through towering branches, the distant, hollow call of an owl, and the occasional settling of a forest branch blend into a soft, ambient tapestry that washes over the sleeping troop without ever piercing the veil of rest. In this state of deep neurological restoration, time loses its sharp edges. The forest outside remains vast and wild, yet within the sanctuary of the sleeping site, all is still, balanced, and deeply peaceful. Beyond the immediate warmth of the sleeping platform, the wider mountain forest breathes in a long, nocturnal rhythm. A gentle mountain breeze moves down from the jagged peaks, brushing softly against the broad, rubbery leaves of giant lobelias and sending a hushed, silvery rustle through the frosted canopy above. These delicate acoustic vibrations ripple outward, creating a predictable, wave-like backdrop of sound that flows through the sleeping woods like a lullaby. Farther down the valley, carried faintly on the cool night air, the resonant, hooting call of a nocturnal owl drifts across the ravine. The sound is ancient and untamed, yet it possesses a steady cadence that blends seamlessly into the background harmony of the wilderness. It poses no threat to the resting troop, instead serving as a quiet anchor for the ears, reassuring the nervous system of the vast, peaceful expanse of the natural world. Closer to the nest, the frost continues its quiet work, tracing delicate, crystalline patterns along the outer edges of bent branches and fallen logs. Every now and then, a twig makes a tiny, dry cracking sound as the freezing temperatures cause the wood to contract slightly. These microsounds occur in a slow, unhurried sequence, punctuated only by the soft, rhythmic breathing of the great apes resting securely in the dark. The air grows crisper, smelling faintly of damp earth, pine resin, and cold stone. Yet within this cradle of natural quiet, the forest feels remarkably still and protective, holding the sleeping world in a tender, unchanging embrace. As the hours drift silently past midnight, the mountain air grows noticeably crisper. A subtle, high-altitude chill descends through the upper canopy, carrying the unmistakable promise of winter frost upon the midnight breeze. This gradual drop in temperature triggers a protective physiological response. The resting blackback stirs just enough in its sleep to tuck its chin closer to its chest, curling its sturdy frame tighter into the center of the nest to preserve its core body heat. Thick autumn fur, now dense with undercoat fibers grown specifically for the colder months, acts as an exceptional thermal barrier against the dropping ambient temperature. Trapped layers of warm air remain securely held close to the skin, buffering the young gorilla's body from the touch of the autumn night. Without fully waking, the blackback breathes out a long, slow sigh that mists faintly in the starlight, its heart rate steady and relaxed in deep, restorative slumber. Around the nesting site, the forest environment begins its subtle preparation for the seasonal transition. The frost deepens, coating the outermost leaves in a fine, silvery glaze that glimmers faintly under the pale stars. Yet, despite the encroaching cold, the atmosphere within the troop's communal resting grounds remains profoundly secure. The slow, synchronized rhythm of breathing rises from the surrounding nests, a powerful reminder of the warmth found in social cohesion. In this quiet sanctuary, suspended between the passing of autumn and the quiet threshold of winter, the mountain world rests in deep, unbroken peace. High above the mist-shrouded valleys of the Virunga Mountains, winter dawn unfurls in shades of pale amethyst and silver. Across the high volcanic slopes, a crisp mountain breeze whispers through the emerald canopy, carrying the crystalline chill of a seasonal shift. Frost clings delicately to the serrated edges of giant lobelias and coats the towering bamboo leaves in a shimmering, frozen lace that crinkles softly in the early morning air. Farther down the slope, distant colobus monkeys send out soft, echoing calls that drift across the steep ravines. Amidst this serene landscape, nestled within the tangled undergrowth, the high-altitude cloud forest rests in quiet majesty. The temperature has plummeted well below the tropical average, yet the ecosystem possesses a tranquil, enduring resilience. Here, sheltered within a freshly abandoned night nest, a young subadult gorilla stirs. He rests comfortably in the freezing dawn, his body naturally equipped for the alpine cold. Over the preceding months, his physiology has undergone remarkable changes. A dense, thick winter coat, far heavier and more insulating than the plush fur of his infancy, now covers his expanding frame. Beneath this dark, woolly pelage lies a layer of subcutaneous fat and a robust, muscular structure that helps retain vital core heat. As he awakens, he takes a slow, deep breath, his visible warm breath mingling with the frosty air in a gentle plume. He flexes his broad shoulders and stretches his limbs, feeling the quiet strength of his growing body. The environment is severe, but the mountain air feels clean, bracing, and deeply peaceful. That deepening layer of dense, dark fur is a biological masterpiece shaped by centuries of high-altitude evolution. Unlike his lowland relatives, the mountain gorilla must endure freezing temperatures where frost lingers well into the day. His pelage grows longer and thicker along his back and shoulders, creating a vital thermal barrier against the biting alpine wind. Fine underfur traps a cushion of warm air close to his skin, while coarser guard hairs shed the persistent mountain moisture. Without fire or constructed shelter, great apes rely entirely on these intricate anatomical adaptations to maintain thermal equilibrium. Beneath a dark fleece, a gentle redistribution of subcutaneous fat further insulates his vital organs. Working in quiet harmony with his accelerating metabolism, he shifts his weight, the rhythmic contraction of his muscles generating internal heat that radiates outward through his sturdy frame. He reaches out a large, leathery hand, curling his fingers into the frozen earth. Every sinew reflects his transition from juvenile fragility to robust subadult strength. His broad chest rises and falls in a slow, steady cadence, perfectly synchronized with the serene stillness of the awakening forest. The cold air surrounds him, yet he remains snug within his natural winter armor, resting in deep, undisturbed comfort as the quiet morning deepens around him. All around the sleeping site, the family troop begins to stir from their ground nests of bent bamboo and folded ferns. As the pale dawn light filters through the high-altitude canopy, visible breaths puff into the freezing mountain air like tiny clouds of mist. Deep, resonant chest hums ripple through the shadows, gentle vocalizations of reassurance that echo softly across the volcanic slope. An adult female shifts nearby, and the subadult steps out from his own temporary nest with practiced, unhurried ease. He balances securely on his knuckles, the cold earth crunching beneath his heavy weight. The social atmosphere is profoundly calm, governed by a steady, cooperative rhythm that defines the troop's survival in these harsh elements. To counter the lingering frost, family members draw close together, sharing contact in quiet huddles that maximize communal warmth. The subadult briefly leans against the sturdy frame of a dominant silverback, a tactile reassurance that reinforces social bonds and provides mutual thermal comfort. Such cooperative behaviors are essential physiological strategies for primates residing above the tree line, lowering the metabolic cost of maintaining core body temperatures during the coldest months. Every gentle touch and slow movement helps regulate their internal thermostats against the chill. As the morning breeze rustles the frosted bamboo leaves overhead, distant colobus monkey calls drift across the valley. The subadult stretches his broad shoulders, his dense coat rippling slightly as he readies himself for the journey ahead. The troop remains gathered in serene unity, breathing as one within the quiet, frosted sanctuary of the Virunga Mountains. The family troop breaks from their huddled formation, and the single-file procession begins to wind deeper into the shadowed forest. Leading the movement through the tricky terrain, the subadult settles into a steady, powerful quadrupedal gait. His large knuckles press firmly into the frozen earth and slick, frosted leaves, distributing his substantial weight across broad, padded hands. Walking on all fours requires specialized biomechanics. Primate knuckles are uniquely adapted with reinforced bones and thick connective pads, protecting delicate joints from the abrasive, hard soil while allowing for an efficient stride. Navigating the steep volcanic slopes demands a delicate balance of youthful agility and the burgeoning, massive strength of adulthood. With every step, the young male tests the footing of the slippery ground, his long arms extending smoothly to pull his growing frame upward. His hips and knees flex in rhythmic synchronization, absorbing the irregularities of the volcanic rock beneath the white rime. This quadrupedal locomotion is both an energetic trade-off and an evolutionary triumph, keeping his center of gravity low and secure against the gravitational pull of the mountainside. A crisp mountain breeze sweeps through the understory, carrying the scent of damp moss and frozen bamboo. The subadult pauses momentarily on a ridge, perfectly balanced, his thick furred back broad against the pale sky. Below him, the rest of the troop flows effortlessly along the established path, leaving a trail of quiet footsteps in the white frost. The unhurried pace continues, a slow and rhythmic progression deeper into the sleeping wilderness. The family moves as one cohesive, living organism, a steady single-file procession winding smoothly across the broad shoulder of the volcano. Senior members set the unhurried pace, their vast experience mapping out the most energy-efficient trails through the frosted terrain. Positioned securely near the center of the column, the subadult walks with a quiet, observant awareness. Surrounded by the gentle presence of his kin, he watches the older males navigate natural bottlenecks in the landscape, silently absorbing the subtle nuances of group travel and spatial coordination. This deliberate synchronization is vital for survival in the high-altitude winter. Traveling in a tight formation conserves precious metabolic energy as the leaders break through the heavy crust of frozen vegetation, clearing a smoother path for those following behind. Every movement is measured and deliberate, designed to minimize unnecessary exertion while the ambient temperature remains low. Social bonds hum quietly throughout the moving column. Soft grunts and low-contact calls pass softly between mothers and infants, anchoring the family in a web of shared security. The subadult occasionally glances back, catching the steady gaze of a relative behind him, reinforcing an unbroken line of mutual trust. As they traverse the gentle incline, the collective motion of the troop creates a soothing, rhythmic cadence against the sleeping wilderness. Their synchronized journey continues forward, melting effortlessly into the tranquil expanse of the morning. The steady procession curves gently upward, drawing near a dense, cathedral-like grove of ancient hagenia and towering podocarpus trees. Here, sheltered from the harshest mountain gusts, winter food sources are deeply concentrated. The gnarled, moss-draped branches form a sprawling canopy overhead, while the damp, fertile earth below harbors a rich abundance of subterranean nourishment and protective woody growth. The subadult pauses at the edge of the grove, his broad shoulders rising and falling in a slow, even rhythm. He watches with quiet attention as the dominant silverback steps forward, methodically testing the frozen ground and stripping away tough outer layers to reveal tender, edible bark and fibrous roots beneath. These vital plant tissues provide the complex carbohydrates needed to sustain high internal core temperatures throughout the freezing months. Following the lead of the older males, the other troop members disperse in a relaxed, wide arc among the massive tree trunks. The subadult selects a promising patch of rich soil near a fallen log. His powerful fingers probe the frost-dusted earth, gently brushing aside brittle debris with practiced care. All around him, the tranquil grove settles into the peaceful rhythm of the morning. Soft rustling sounds blend with the quiet chewing of roots and pith, creating an atmosphere of deep, restorative calm. The search for daytime sustenance begins under the pale winter sun, wrapping the family in a cocoon of quiet abundance and profound restfulness. High above the mist-shrouded valleys, winter has firmly settled its icy grip upon the high-altitude cloud forest. Under a crisp, freezing sky, the ancient stands of hagenia and podocarpus trees stand like silent sentinels, their sprawling branches frosted with a delicate, shimmering layer of crystalline rime. The ambient air is still and biting, carrying the soft, rhythmic creaking of frozen timber and the distant, haunting call of a mountain bird waking to the dawn. Amidst this hushed, wintry landscape, a makeshift bed of broken twigs and flattened leaves stirs. Here, resting deep within a freshly constructed ground nest, a young subadult gorilla opens heavy eyes. As it shifts against the chill, its thickening dark winter fur, a biological adaptation designed to trap insulating air against dropping temperatures, rustles softly against the frozen vegetation. Slowly, the subadult sits up, testing its growing, robust frame against the morning cold. With every exhale, a plume of warm breath mist rises into the freezing air, dissolving gently into the pale light of dawn. The rhythmic crunch of heavy footsteps on frost nearby signals that the rest of the family group is beginning to awaken. Gathering its limbs beneath it, the young gorilla prepares to step out of the nest and join the troop, stepping forward into a challenging new day where survival depends upon ancient instincts and the quiet, steady resilience of the mountain clan. Leaving the relative shelter of the waking nest behind, the troop begins to move as one cohesive, shadowy unit deeper into the dense groves of towering hagenia and podocarpus trees. Here, high in the mountain ecosystem, the winter canopy is sparse and open, allowing the crisp wind to whistle gently through the bare, twisting branches overhead. The subadult travels with confident, deliberate quadrupedal steps, its knuckles pressing softly into the frosty earth. As it walks, its thickening dark fur ripples over strengthening shoulders, providing essential insulation against the biting mountain chill. This seasonal coat is a vital physiological buffer, trapping a layer of body heat to combat temperatures that plunge well below freezing. Moving through the towering groves, the towering trunks of the podocarpus trees rise like ancient pillars of red-brown bark, while the gnarled, sprawling limbs of the hagenia stretch outward, draped in pale, delicate lichens. The atmosphere is profoundly quiet, broken only by the steady, muffled padding of heavy bodies over frozen soil and the occasional, gentle sigh of a breeze weaving through the needle-laden canopy. Every member of the family group navigates this wintry maze with an intimate, generational knowledge of the terrain. The older silverback leads the progression, his massive silhouette cutting a slow, deliberate path through the understory. The subadult matches his pace, keeping close within the safety of the troop. Each quiet step carries them further into the frost-kissed woods, where the search for sustenance is about to begin under the vast, pale winter sky. The lush, green shoots and tender leaves that defined the warmer months are now entirely locked beneath a fragile glaze of morning frost. Faced with this sudden scarcity, the troop's dietary strategy shifts entirely toward the woody architecture of the forest. The subadult approaches the textured trunk of a towering podocarpus tree, planting its feet firmly in the cold earth. With steady, practiced focus, it grips the rough exterior. The gorilla's powerful hands, broad-palmed and dexterous, apply immense leverage, tearing away long, fibrous strips of the tough outer bark. This mechanical peeling reveals the hidden, life-sustaining cambium layer directly beneath, a vital source of seasonal nutrition when preferred foods vanish. Evolutionary design supports this demanding transition. Massive jaws, anchored by broad molars and a powerful sagittal crest, exert tremendous crushing pressure. As the subadult chews the fibrous plant material, specialized microbes within its hindgut ferment the tough cellulose, slowly extracting essential energy and nutrients. This dietary shift requires a careful balancing act of energy expenditure. Maintaining a large mammalian body through the bitter winter demands every calorie the forest can provide, turning each tree into a precious reservoir of sustenance. The rhythmic sound of bark pulling away from wood echoes softly through the grove, accompanied by the gentle, contented murmurs of the feeding family. Here, in the quiet heart of the mountain, survival is an art of patience and profound resilience, sustained by the ancient rhythms of the wild. Leaving the trunks of the podocarpus trees behind, the troop shifts its attention downward to the frozen, leaf-strewn forest floor. Here, buried beneath layers of dark, chilled earth and fallen winter debris, lies a hidden harvest of subterranean reserves. The subadult pauses, watching an experienced adult female approach a thick tangle of vegetation. With focused deliberation, the older gorilla hooks her strong fingers into the frost-hardened soil, using her leverage to loosen the grip of the ground. Slowly, methodically, she begins to unearth a network of nutrient-rich roots and fibrous rhizomes. These underground plant parts store vital carbohydrates and minerals away from the biting frost, serving as a critical lifeline when surface vegetation fails. Curious and attentive, the subadult steps closer, its dark eyes following every movement. It bends down, pressing its broad fingertips into the cold earth beside the adult. Feeling for the woody resistance of underground stems, the young gorilla mimics the precise technique, learning the art of subterranean excavation that has been passed down through generations of this mountain family. As the soil gives way, a thick, moisture-rich root is revealed. The subadult pulls it free, brushing away clinging particles of earth before bringing the prize to its mouth. The dense, starchy fibers require patient, thorough grinding from its broad molars, releasing slow-burning energy to warm the body from within. This shared labor on the forest floor is quiet and methodical, anchored by the deep, generational knowledge of the ecosystem and sustained by the steady, quiet cooperation of the family group. The subadult pauses its steady chewing, lifting its heavy head to observe the calm, deliberate demeanor of the senior silverback nearby. Standing only a few paces away among the towering trunks of the hagenia trees, the massive male moves with an unhurried, graceful efficiency. There is no wasted motion, no frantic searching, only quiet expertise. The young gorilla watches closely as the silverback tests the resilience of a thick, woody stem, running large, leathery fingers along the textured grain to judge its density and internal moisture. By studying how experienced adults carefully select these nutrient-dense plant structures over less beneficial woody material, the subadult refines its own delicate survival skills. This ongoing behavioral ecology, the transmission of generational knowledge from elder to youth, forms the bedrock of mountain gorilla society. Maintaining this close social proximity brings a profound, steady sense of security to the family group. In the heart of the freezing winter, surrounded by the crisp mountain air and the soft creak of swaying branches overhead, the mere presence of the calm elders offers deep reassurance. The subadult absorbs every detail of the silverback's posture, learning patience and economy of effort. When the older male shifts his weight and settles into a rhythmic, methodical pattern of stripping a fresh stem, the younger primate turns back to its own task with renewed focus. It applies a softer, gentler version of the silverback's technique, letting the quiet rhythm of the family wash over it as the morning slowly gives way to the stillness of the high-altitude forest. A pale, low-angled winter sun finally struggles through the upper canopy, casting long, gentle shadows across the frost-covered forest floor. This weak sunlight offers a brief, welcome respite from the biting mountain chill, warming the thick, dark fur of the resting troop. The energetic pace of morning foraging slowly subsides, replaced by a deep, collective stillness as the family members gather together in a sunlit clearing among the great hagenia trees. With their bellies comfortably full of fibrous bark, roots, and woody stems, the gorillas settle into the earth. The unique architecture of the folivore's digestive tract now begins its long, quiet work, microbial fermentation in the large intestine slowly breaking down the tough plant cellulose extracted during the morning hours. The subadult stretches its heavy limbs, feeling the soothing warmth of the sun soak deep into its muscles. It curls its large frame close to the reassuring bulk of a resting adult female, letting out a soft, contented sigh that blends into the gentle whisper of the breeze. All around the clearing, heavy eyelids droop and weary heads nod as the troop yields to the comforting rhythm of the midday pause. The crisp wind fades into a soft, steady calm, wrapping the mountain sanctuary in peace as the family drifts together toward a quiet afternoon rest. The high-altitude winter air of the Virunga Mountains carries a crisp, freezing edge, frosting the dense emerald foliage in delicate white lace. Through this quiet, mist-draped landscape, a family troop of mountain gorillas moves with deliberate, measured steps. At their head walks the dominant silverback, a towering symbol of mature authority and calm strength. Years of social navigation and physical development have culminated in this vital leadership role, where survival depends entirely on deep geographical knowledge and instinctive seasonal adaptation. A gentle wind whispers through the towering hagenia trees, carrying the soft, ambient sound of distant birdsong and the rustling of heavy vegetation. Sensing the dropping temperature as the afternoon wanes, the silverback guides his family away from the exposed ridgelines and down into a sheltered volcanic depression. This natural basin acts as an essential thermal refuge, blocking the biting winter gusts and offering a sanctuary of relative warmth. moving with quiet confidence. The leader utilizes generations of ancestral pathways, understanding the subtle contours of the terrain to shield his vulnerable infants and foraging females from the harsh elements. As the troop files steadily into the hollow, the silverback pauses at the edge of the clearing, turning his massive head to survey the lingering mist. With a series of deep-chested grunts, a soft communication passes between leader and family, reassuring every member that they are safe within this secure haven. The crisp breeze remains outside the hollow, leaving the air within still, heavy with the scent of damp earth, and profoundly peaceful. Standing at the threshold of the tranquil hollow, the dominant male presents a breathtaking study in evolutionary design. At over 400 pounds, his colossal frame is a testament to decades of successful foraging and supreme physical dominance. Stretching across his broad back is the striking silver-gray saddle of hair that marks his status, cascading from his shoulders down to his powerful thighs like a mantle of frosted moonlight. This dense, coarse pelag is an essential winter adaptation, providing thick thermal insulation against the biting mountain frost. Beneath this striking coat lies a massive, barrel-shaped chest designed to house expansive lungs, effortlessly pumping oxygen through the thin, high-altitude air. Every contour of his body speaks of raw, unbridled strength, from the sheer breadth of his shoulders to the heavily muscled forearms that can easily snap thick bamboo stalks. Atop his skull rests a prominent sagittal crest, a bony ridge that serves as a powerful anchor for the massive jaw muscles required to process tough, fibrous mountain vegetation. These anatomical marvels do more than merely ensure his own survival. They are visual markers of absolute maturity and genetic success, commanding instant respect and reverence from every member of the troop. True authority among these gentle mountain giants is rarely broadcast through ceaseless posturing or aggression. Instead, it is anchored in an unshakable, quiet confidence. As the silverback settles deeper into the emerald moss of the sheltered depression, his dark, intelligent eyes continuously sweep the shifting curtains of mist. This vigilance is the cornerstone of effective leadership dynamics, requiring a fine-tuned balance of environmental awareness and social attunement. Every subtle shift in the forest canopy, every snapping twig in the distance, is processed by a mind shaped by decades of complex troop navigation. He does not need to raise his voice or exert force to maintain order. His mere presence projects a profound sense of security that envelops the entire family, allowing the young blackbacks and nursing mothers to rest without fear. When a minor dispute flares up between two juveniles over a prime patch of bed-making foliage, the leader resolves the tension with effortless grace. A single, low-pitched hoot rumbles from his deep chest, accompanied by a slow, deliberate drop of his chin. The sound carries no threat, only an ancient, steady wisdom that immediately restores peace. With the minor friction dissolved, the troop drifts back into a tranquil state of calm integration. The silverback remains steadfast at their center, a living pillar of stability. He breathes in the crisp afternoon air, feeling the gentle rhythm of his family settling against one another for warmth. In this sacred pause between the demands of foraging and the coming night, leadership reveals its true nature, not as a dominion of fear, but as a selfless, enduring guardianship that anchors the troop safely within the wild heart of the winter mountain. Not far from where the patriarch rests, a sudden rustling breaks the stillness. Two young blackbacks, brimming with the restless energy of adolescence, puff out their chests and square their shoulders in a brief posturing display. They stand bipedally for a fleeting second, slapping the damp foliage to test their growing status within the complex social hierarchy. It is a minor friction, a natural ripple of tension among growing brothers navigating their place in the family. Yet, before the dispute can escalate into a disruptive chest-beating bout, the silverback intervenes. He does not rise from his bed of moss, nor does he display anger. Instead, he simply shifts his massive frame, rotating his shoulders just enough to catch their attention. A single, deep-chested grunt vibrates through the cold air, a resonant, guttural note that echoes softly against the rocky basin. This low-frequency vocalization carries immense communicative power. In the quiet mountain air, the sound acts as an immediate social anchor. The two blackbacks instantly drop their raised postures, blinking softly as the tension drains from their muscular frames. The aggressor looks away, and the other quietly resumes gathering leaves for his day nest. With this effortless mediation, the leader preserves the delicate equilibrium of the troop. His calm authority quiets the impending storm, returning the family to a state of serene harmony. As the crisp breeze rustles the nearby ferns, the silverback closes his dark eyes for a brief moment, breathing in the tranquil atmosphere of the mountain home. As the afternoon light softens into a gentle amber hue, the entire troop settles deeply into the sheltered hollow. The surrounding foliage whispers in the crisp breeze, carrying the faint, distant song of a mountain bird before fading into the quiet cold. Wrapped in this natural sanctuary, the family begins its peaceful transition into evening rest. The silverback stretches out comfortably against a high, moss-covered bank, his massive frame perfectly adapted to the winter chill. Beneath his thick, insulating coat of dark hair, a dense layer of subcutaneous fat and specialized skin vasculature work in tandem for efficient thermoregulation, sealing in precious body heat against the descending alpine temperatures. His prominent silver saddle catches the last fading rays of sunlight, glowing softly like spun frost across his broad back and powerful thighs. Around him, the family finds deep reassurance in his steadfast presence. A mother cradles her sleepy infant close to her chest, her fingers gently moving through the dark fur in rhythmic grooming. Nearby, the young blackbacks who moments ago tested their strength are now curled into makeshift nests of crushed ferns, their breathing slowing to match the steady, deep cadence of the patriarch. With every expansion of his immense chest, the silverback sets a tranquil rhythm for the entire troop. His deep, resonant breaths echo softly against the damp earth, acting as a soothing heartbeat for the resting family. He keeps one dark, watchful eye half open, scanning the misty perimeter of the depression while letting the heavy exhaustion of the day gently lift away. In this quiet moment of repose, surrounded by those he fiercely protects, the Mountain King rests in absolute, unshakable peace. Shadows lengthen slowly across the dark volcanic rocks, painting the high mountain slopes in cool shades of blue and violet. The last amber fingers of daylight retreat up the peaks, leaving the sheltered depression wrapped in the quiet chill of approaching evening. A crisp breeze carries the promise of nighttime frost, whispering softly through the frosted bamboo stalks and dormant ferns. Remaining steadfast against the dropping temperature, the silverback shifts his immense weight just slightly, adjusting his posture to cradle the lingering warmth of the earth. His specialized thermoregulatory adaptations continue their quiet work beneath his dense winter coat, locking in body heat as the alpine air turns brisk. Without lifting his head, he casts a final, sweeping glance across the resting family, ensuring every member is nestled safely within the fold. In the fading light, the troop drifts deeper into stillness. The distant rustling of foliage fades entirely, replaced by the steady, synchronized breathing of the sleeping family. The silverback closes his eyes for longer intervals now, surrendering gracefully to the heavy peace of twilight. Every low, deep-chested grunt that rumbles within his chest serves as a gentle anchor, reassuring the troop through the gathering darkness. As the first microscopic ice crystals begin to form on the surrounding leaves, the Mountain King holds his vigilant, quiet watch, wrapping his family in an unbroken circle of serenity as night claims the slopes. High upon the mist-shrouded volcanic slopes, the mountain air grows heavy with the quiet promise of winter. As the last embers of sunset fade behind the jagged peaks, a subtle shift sweeps through the dense Afro-montane forest. The temperature drops steadily, triggering a physiological conservation response in the resident wildlife. Blood vessels near the skin constrict to preserve core body heat, and thick, dark coats fluff outward to trap a vital layer of insulating air against the biting chill. Out of the slate-gray twilight, the first delicate snowflakes begin to drift downward. They descend in a slow, hypnotic dance, resting softly upon the broad leaves of wild celery and clinging to the tangled canopy of giant groundsels. There is a profound stillness to this descent, accompanied only by the faintest rustling of branches as a gentle winter wind whispers through the bamboo groves. Far below, in the shadows of an ancient Haginia tree, a deep and steady breath marks the presence of the troop's patriarch. He rests motionless, his massive frame a monument of patience. The falling snow settles gently upon the silver-white hair that extends in a striking saddle across his broad back and powerful thighs, a visible testament to senescence and a long life well lived in these highlands. He blinks slowly, his dark eyes heavy with the accumulated wisdom of decades. Around him, the forest is hushed, save for the distant, hollow hoot of an owl echoing across the valley. The world shrinks inward, wrapped in a pure, cooling blanket of white, inviting the weary mountain sanctuary to drift peacefully toward the coming night. Slowly, the great Mayo lifts his heavy frame from the frozen ground. Decades of navigating these steep volcanic ridges have left their quiet mark upon his joints, instilling a profound economy in every motion. Age-related changes in cartilage demand a deliberate, measured cadence. He tests the stability of the slick, snow-dusted earth with massive knuckles before shifting his full weight forward. As he begins to walk, his movement is a masterclass in behavioral conservation. Without wasting a single calorie of precious energy, he conserves metabolic warmth through unhurried pacing. The striking silver saddle across his back gathers a soft crown of fresh white flakes, contrasting sharply with the deep, dense underfur designed by evolution to combat the alpine frost. Each step is deliberate, his large feet pressing firmly into the accumulating powder to secure solid footing along the darkening slope. The cooling twilight deepens around him, casting long, blue shadows across the snow-laden ferns. Yet the patriarch does not rush. He pauses frequently, lifting his broad muzzle to sample the crisp, freezing air, reading the subtle olfactory signatures of his dispersed family. Every slow rotation of his massive head demonstrates the enduring vigilance of a seasoned leader. His breath rises in faint, rhythmic plumes that drift upward and vanish among the silent, snow-draped boughs. In this quiet twilight, his unhurried journey through the white wilderness embodies a timeless grace, a master of the mountain moving in perfect harmony with the winter's descent. With a low, rumbling murmur that vibrates softly in his chest, the great leader halts his ascent and turns his heavy shoulders toward the sheltering canopy. His deep-set, dark eyes survey the growing shadows beneath the dripping branches, scanning for the familiar silhouettes of his family. Maintaining troop cohesion is an evolutionary imperative in these high-altitude frosts, where social warmth and mutual protection are vital for survival. He casts a watchful gaze toward the females and the younger generation gathered near the base of a mossy Haginia tree. A juvenile, restless with the playful energy of youth, receives a gentle, grounding glance from the patriarch, a silent, authoritative communication that instantly restores calm within the shivering group. The silverback checks each member methodically. He notes the nursing mother tucked tightly against the trunk, shielding her vulnerable infant from the descending chill, and observes the adolescent blackbacks pressing close together to share metabolic heat. His lifelong role as protector and mediator remains entirely undiminished by the passage of time. senescence has only honed his quiet wisdom, replacing impulsive displays with an unflappable, anchoring presence. Every individual is accounted for, nestled securely within the protective perimeter of his enduring leadership. Satisfied that his family is safe and unified against the encroaching night, the elder male exhales a long, steady breath that softens into the mist. He stands sentinel for a quiet moment longer, a steadfast mountain anchor wrapped in falling snow, ensuring all is well before he turns to prepare his own resting place. With the troop secured, the great male turns his heavy frame toward a patch of resilient mountain vegetation. Constructing a winter sleeping nest is an intricate exercise in behavioral conservation and thermal physics. Unlike the lighter, temporary day nests, a ground-level bed for a heavy primate must provide vital insulation against the frozen volcanic earth, guarding against conductive heat loss during sub-zero mountain nights. His massive, calloused fingers, strengthened by decades of foraging and supporting his immense bulk, reach out to harvest sturdy, flexible boughs of wild celery and thick ferns. With deliberate, economical movements, the aging silverback bends the woody stems, weaving them into a circular, interlocking foundation. Every motion is measured, conserving precious metabolic energy as the twilight deepens and the temperature plummets. He gathers deep layers of dry, insulating leaves, pressing them into the center to create a thick, cushioned mattress that will trap warm air beneath his heavy body. Age has brought a careful precision to his architecture. He systematically arranges the surrounding foliage into a raised rim, designed to break the gentle drift of winter wind sweeping across the forest floor. As he tests the density and comfort of the finished platform with a slow shift of his weight, the nest cradles his broad frame. He settles down into the woven greenery, pulling a final leafy branch across his lap. Surrounded by the quiet hush of the falling snow, the old leader rests his weary head upon his arms, perfectly insulated against the cold, slipping slowly into a state of deep, restorative slumber. All across the clearing, the surrounding family troop follows his ancient wisdom. Mothers and growing juveniles curl into their own freshly woven beds, tucked closely together to maximize shared warmth through huddling behaviors. A soft, contented murmur of low grunts drifts between the shadowy nests, reinforcing social bonds as the mountain descends into total stillness. Above them, the gentle winter wind whispers softly through the high canopy, carrying a fine veil of white that slowly dusts the silver hair across the patriarch's broad back. Inside his sheltered hollow, the silverback's heavy chest rises and falls in a slow, rhythmic cadence. His deep, measured breathing creates tiny plumes of warm vapor in the freezing twilight air. Protected by the thermal mass of his custom nest and the dense layers of his dark fur, his body successfully retains vital heat, balancing his core temperature against the biting frost. The physical demands of leading through another changing season fade away as restorative sleep takes hold. In the distance, the low, resonant hoot of an alpine owl echoes across the silent volcanic slopes, marking the arrival of deep night. The sanctuary rests beneath a tranquil blanket of untouched snow, cradled in a profound and timeless peace. The winter forest deepens into a profound and velvet quiet. As the snowfall thickens, an exquisite acoustic dampening takes hold of the high-altitude sanctuary. Each delicate flake acts as a tiny, absorbent cushion, swallowing the faint sounds of the wilderness until an absolute stillness envelops the dormant volcano. In this hushed sanctuary, the physical mechanics of insulation complete their silent work. The great silverback rests motionless within his elevated bed of woven branches, his thick coat of fur trapping a secure pocket of warm air against his skin. This natural barrier defends his aging frame from the sub-zero chill, allowing his metabolism to slow gently as energy is conserved for the coming dawn. All around him, The family troop dissolves into the deep slumber of the nocturnal hours. The shared warmth of their adjacent nests radiates outward, a testament to the enduring social cohesion that shields them from the elements. No branches rustle, no footsteps disturb the pristine white earth. The forest breathes only with the very faint, rhythmic sighs of sleeping primates, lulled by the gentle rhythm of the winter night. Above the canopy, the clouds part slightly, allowing the pale silver glow of starlight to touch the pristine snowdrifts. The ancient leader slumbers on, his weary muscles finally free from the vigilant burdens of the day. Time itself seems to slow across the mountain slopes, holding the tranquil gorilla family in a timeless, peaceful embrace beneath the starlit sky. High above the frost-touched valleys of the Virunga Range, the midnight forest surrenders to a profound, velvety stillness. Heavy winter clouds veil the volcanic peaks, releasing a slow, silent drift of snow that dissolves into the ancient canopy. There is no sound save for the whispering glide of snowflakes brushing against towering hagenia trees and the soft, steady sigh of a gentle mountain wind threading through the bamboo stems. Nestled deep within this sanctuary of white and shadow rests the aging silverback. Within a securely woven cradle of dry leaves, broken branches, and moss, his massive, powerful frame settles completely. After decades of navigating shifting seasons, defending his lineage, and leading his family through mist-laden slopes, his muscles finally unburden themselves of their lifelong vigilance. Geriatric primate physiology brings a different kind of quiet to these final years. His metabolism slows beneath the chill, and his body conserves its warmth in the sheltered embrace of his well-constructed nocturnal nest. The thick silver saddle across his broad back, a badge of his hard-won maturity, catches the faint, silvery luminescence of a hidden moon. Every breath he draws is deep, slow, and measured, echoing the tranquil rhythm of the sleeping mountain itself. Nearby, nestled closely in the communal warmth of the dark, his troop rests without a stir. The crisp winter air outside the nest sharpens the contrast of their shared heat, a biological safeguard against the alpine cold. In this suspended moment, time seems to widen, holding the ancient patriarch in a space of utter peace, cradled by the very earth he spent a lifetime tending. Just beyond the patriarch's resting place, the broader family circle forms a protective constellation of nests woven closely together. Here, in the heart of the winter refuge, social bonds translate into a vital survival strategy. Nocturnal thermoregulation takes center stage as mothers, growing blackbacks, and restless youngsters press close to one another, pooling their body heat to defy the alpine freeze. The forest around them seems to hold its breath. The quiet sounds of deep, rhythmic breathing rise from the canopy floor, a slow, synchronous tide of inhales and exhales that creates an atmosphere of absolute safety and contentment. A young blackback stirs slightly in its sleep, murmuring a soft, comforting, grunting vocalization before sinking back into heavy, restorative slumber against its mother's chest. The adult females, whose vigilance during waking hours is relentless, now rest with identical abandon, secure in the lingering presence of their experienced leader. Every rustle of dry leaves settling beneath a shifting shoulder is muffled by the accumulating snow, adding another layer of quiet to the woodland. This interconnected resting site represents more than mere physical proximity. It is the living architecture of troop stability. Each family member contributes to the collective microclimate, sharing warmth and reassurance through touch. In the gentle dark, surrounded by the steady heartbeats of his kin, the silverback rests at the center of a legacy that breathes, endures, and dreams within the quiet cradle of the mountain. Beneath the heavy canopy, the silverback's mind drifts through the long, quiet geography of a life well lived. Decades have passed since he first clung, a fragile newborn, to his mother's chest in the vernal mists of these very slopes. His journey has traced the contours of the Virunga volcanoes through countless seasonal turnings, from the lush abundance of the rainy months to the crisp, silent tests of winter. With calm authority, he navigated the complex politics of mountain gorilla society, rising from a curious blackback into the steadfast pillar of his family. He remembers the rich scent of wild celery patches where he once foraged, and the heavy emerald thickets where he mediated disputes with a patient, low-pitched rumble. Geriatric physiology has slowed his massive frame, reducing his daily range, but his wisdom remains the invisible glue holding the troop together. When external challenges tested the group's boundaries over the years, it was his quiet steadiness, rarely requiring aggression, that kept his kin safe. Now, as the snow dusts his silver-plated back, the milestones of his lifelong stewardship blend into a soft internal landscape. His leadership has ensured the continuity of his bloodline, passing down the intricate knowledge of the forest to the energetic youngsters sleeping just a few feet away. Every trail he forged, every nest he built, and every danger he absorbed has contributed to the resilience of this ecosystem. He is not merely an inhabitant of this ancient refuge. He is an integral part of its enduring history, resting deeply in the quiet fulfillment of a complete cycle. Outside the circular embrace of the nest, the winter night deepens, and the mountain air grows crisp and still. From the charcoal dark canopy above, soft snowflakes begin their unhurried descent, drifting through the branches like descending starlight. This gentle precipitation brings a profound quiet to the high-altitude refuge, muffling even the faintest whispers of the wind. Each delicate flake settles softly onto the dense, insulating layers of dark fur that cover the sleeping family. Mountain gorilla hair is uniquely adapted for these freezing elevations, featuring a thick underfur and long guard hairs that trap warm air close to the skin. Yet tonight, the snow accumulates faster than body heat can melt it, dusting the silverback's broad shoulders and the dark, rounded heads of his kin with a fine, undisturbed white. Around the patriarch, the bamboo stalks bend slightly under the accumulating weight, their green stems bowing in quiet submission to the winter storm. The falling snow drapes the surrounding hagenia trees and ancient ferns in a heavy, pristine blanket, erasing the boundaries between the earth and the sky. In this hushed sanctuary, the forest takes on an aura of timeless peace. The visual world narrows to shades of charcoal, silver, and ivory, stripped of all harshness by the quiet storm. Every sound is absorbed by the deep drifts, leaving behind a profound acoustic stillness where the heartbeat of the volcano seems to slow. Underneath this cooling canopy, the resting troop remains completely undisturbed, cradled safely within the frozen poetry of the ancient Virunga highlands. High upon the volcanic slopes, a legacy takes root far beyond a single lifetime. In the heart of the troop, the younger blackbacks stir slightly in their sleep, their growing bodies absorbing the lessons of stability and patience written into their very genes. The silverback's lifelong leadership has fortified this family, creating a resilient social structure essential for survival in the demanding Virunga ecosystem. His geriatric physiology, once fueled by endless climbs and vigorous chest beats, now rests in a profound, conserving stillness, passing the torch of guardianship to the generation rising in his shadow. Evolutionary success for these gentle primates relies entirely on the transmission of cultural knowledge and peaceful group dynamics. Every route through the misty valleys, every foraging technique for tender bamboo shoots, and every subtle vocalization of reassurance has been carefully modeled by the patriarch. As the young males practice their chest beating in waking hours, they mirror the calm authority and protective instincts embodied by their sleeping elder. The species conservation of gorilla barangay is a testament to this unbroken chain of care. Each infant born into the safety of the troop inherits not only the rich biodiversity of the Afro-Alpine forest, but a legacy of deep communal bonds. The silverback's influence lingers in the steady, synchronized breathing of his kin, an enduring rhythm that promises continuity through the coming spring mists and the countless winters yet to unfold upon the ancient mountain. Outside the woven sanctuary of leaves and branches, the winter night deepens over the ancient volcanic refuge. High-altitude clouds part just enough to reveal a blanket of steady stars, watching over the silent Virunga Mountains like quiet guardians. Snowflakes continue their gentle, hypnotic descent, frosting the forest canopy and sealing the Afro-Alpine wilderness in a soft, soundless white. Every sharp edge of the rugged terrain is smoothed away, replaced by sweeping curves of drifted snow that muffle the nocturnal world into complete tranquility. Within the deep cup of his nest, the old silverback rests entirely at peace. His massive frame, weathered by decades of sun, rain, and bitter mountain winds, relaxes into a final, profound stillness. The demanding journey of his life cycle is complete, resolved in the warm embrace of the family he built and protected. His slow, rhythmic exhalations have faded into the broader breath of the mountain itself, blending seamlessly with the gentle whisper of the mountain wind through the bamboo stems. Nearby, his troop slumbers on, warmed by shared body heat and the enduring security of their ancestral home. The younger blackbacks and resting females drift deeper into sleep, their chests rising and falling in steady unison. They are wrapped in a cocoon of safety, cradled by the very landscape the patriarch dedicated his life to defending. No sudden sounds break the stillness. Only the occasional rustle of settling leaves and the distant, soothing call of an owl drift across the snowy slopes. The silverback's physical journey has ended, but his presence remains woven into every trail, every gentle greeting murmur, and every heartbeat of the family that carries his spirit forward. The mountain sleeps, timeless and unbroken,